Empire of Steel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Barbarian Artillery. Really 4 or 5 meters long. In the main hall, Xiao Ming paced back and forth. You can't be wrong, and the gun muzzle is very thick. Your Highness, the lower official thought, this gun must be used to attack the city. Wang Zhuan said, if it's like what you said, then this cannon is indeed used to attack the city. Xiao Ming frowned. Urban artillery is a famous siege artillery in history. The Ottoman Empire used this artillery to blast away the walls of Constantinople, but this kind of artillery is very bulky and spliced during the war. It needs to be transported piece by piece, and then assembled in the battlefield. However, to forge such a rough thing can be described as laborious, and Urban's technology is a product of the mid-15th century. Although it is powerful, its range is also very short. He did not believe that the barbarians would use this kind of artillery as their main artillery. After all, Bei Shan had seen the range of King Zhao artillery on the grassland. It's just that when Xiaoguan sneaked into the test firing range, he saw other traces of cannonballs on the ground. Xiaoguan suspected that the barbarians had more than one type of artillery, so he planned to continue to lurk, but he was dismantled at this moment and had to escape. Wang Zhuan said so. He nodded. This was in line with the characteristics of barbarians. He didn't believe that Bei Shan came up with something similar to Hu cannon like last time. This thing must be reserved for the last siege. Wang Zhuan talked about being betrayed many times, and he couldn't help asking, who betrayed you? It's also the caravan of the Great Yu Kingdom, but this caravan is from Zhao, and they seem to be spying on the barbarian artillery, and we were discovered to them. Wang Zhuan said, Zhao Di? It seems that he belongs to King Zhao, but this is a pain for you. Since the last time when Zhao Yuanlian was asked to go back, King Zhao has always held a grudge against this king. At this time, it is the style of King Zhao who is with you. You will report, no one knows him. It's just that this has delayed our further exploration of the barbarian artillery. Wang Zhuan was a little unhappy. It doesn't matter, this king has already made up his mind. Since the urban artillery has appeared, the artillery skills of this barbarian are not much better. Xiao Ming said to himself. First of all, through the color, it shows that the barbarians cast bronze cannons, which shows that the barbarians have not mastered the technology of iron cannons in this way. The barbarians have to spend a lot of money to cast artillery, which is a matter of throwing money into it because of the quality of the steel and cast iron. His artillery can not only be mass-produced, but also of good quality and low price. After all, iron is still cheaper than copper, otherwise copper would not have been used as an ancient currency. Precisely because of the lack of copper. Wang Zhuan nodded. It's just that this time I was almost killed by King Zhao's people. Your Highness, I really can't swallow this breath. HMPH, since King Zhao doesn't give me face so much, I don't have to give him face. Li San has found out a lot of Zhao's whereabouts during this period of time. These people will be handed over to you and killed. Xiao Ming's voice had a hint of chill. Wang Zhuan sneered gloomily twice. Your Highness, it seems that this King Zhao is about to go crazy because of the artillery. And now he is sending people everywhere to spy on the art of artillery. That's natural. King Zhao is ambitious and has always wanted to replace my Zhao family. Now that the King Zhao artillery is launched, and the Forbidden Army is equipped with artillery, King Zhao has to weigh whether his black armored cavalry can capture Chang'an. Xiao Ming said. With the lessons of the barbarians in King Zhao, this King Zhao is naturally anxious. Wang Zhuan said with a smile, but Your Highness, although we were exposed to the barbarians this time, the lower officials did not make them feel better, and they also dismantled them. The identity of the barbarians, when the barbarians chased us, was also chasing them. Now King Zhao has not only cut off the fine work in King Zhao, but also cut off the fine work in the barbarians. As a result, he can only buy artillery from King Zhao. At that time, His Royal Highness could not be merciless. Xiao Ming could imagine the danger of Wang Zhuan at that time. Fortunately, the barbarians were different from the Great Yu Kingdom, and did not like to live in a city surrounded by city walls, otherwise Wang Zhuan would really not be able to escape squinting his eyes. Since Zhao Yuanlian left last time, the artillery business has stopped. In addition to the imperial court, only King Wei, King Chu, King Liang, and King Yuang sent people to contact him, and at the same time, they also placed orders. The military workshop is producing export-type artillery for them, and these orders have also brought him huge profits. and it is because of this that he has the money to make such a big move in Kingzhou HMPH. He is unkind, so don't blame this king for being unjust. Xiao Ming said bitterly. This time Wang Zhuan was injured and his identity was exposed, which would bring a lot of inconvenience to information collection on the grassland in the future. King Xiao's actions made it clear that he wanted Xiao Ming Chang to be blinded, and he was caught off guard by the barbarians in his plan. It is estimated that he still hopes that the barbarians can take Kangzhou City and go south, so that the two pillars of the royal family will fall at that time. King Zhao could sit on the ground and raise the price, asking Wang Zhuan to go back to rest and recover. Xiao Ming frowned. After so long, it was finally confirmed that the barbarians were forging artillery in this way. I am afraid that the decisive battle between him and Bei Shan and Yao Xiao is not far away. In the last battle of Kangzhou, Bei Shan was humiliated in Chengdu, but this time he will definitely come with an army to regain his lost reputation, and this time, the revenge is bound to be fierce. It's just that Xiao Ming is also waiting for this opportunity. The installation of the flintlock gun will give him the ability to fight the barbarians in the wild. In this way, he and Zun Xingcheng's fortress advancement plan can continue to be implemented, so that he can erode the land of Yao Xiao step by step, until the barbarians are driven out of Yao Xiao and recapture the former 16 states of Yan'an. Thinking of this, Xiao Ming clenched his fists. During this time, he had to grasp the production of the flintlock gun, and after the flintlock gun came out, he would have to train for at least 3 months, which was still a long process. But this is also a long process for Bei Shan in Chengdu. In a silver tent, Bei Shan closed his eyes slightly. In front of him was an Ottoman with curly hair, brown eyes and a high nose. Are you sure that the urban artillery can smash the city walls of Kangzhou? Bei Shan said coldly. Bishan Taiji, please believe me, urban artillery has ever blasted away the strongest city wall, and the city wall of Dao Kingdom is even more vulnerable. The Ottoman craftsman looked at Bishan, and all he was plundered when the barbarians took the city, where they were forging artillery. Bei Shan nodded. A few days ago, there had been a detailed work from the Great Yu Kingdom in Chengdu, which was enough to show that the Great Yu Kingdom was equally afraid of artillery. I hope your words are correct, otherwise I will definitely chop off your head. Bei Shan said sharply. Hearing this, the craftsman trembled with fright. At this moment, a guard suddenly came in and said, Tiji, the envoy of Guerrilla has arrived. Chapter 302 Undercurrent Surging. Outside the silver tent, the guards were heavily guarded. 2 guerrilla envoys in red crew neck shirts were waiting for Bai Sun's summons when a strange-looking man came out of the tent. He got the news of being summoned. Li Sunhe, the messenger of the king of Guerrilla, pays a visit to Bai Sun Tegil. The moment she saw Bei Shan, Li Shunji knelt on the ground and gave Bei Shan a 5-body salute. Since the barbarians grew, the forces of the Great Yu Kingdom were driven into Shanhaiguan by the barbarians. At this time, the king of Guerrilla also turned to the barbarians and handed over the letter of credentials to the barbarians. He voluntarily became a vassal state of the Golden Horde. Obey the national language. Get up. Bei Shan raised the corners of his mouth. He liked this feeling very much, the feeling of being bowed down by others, but it would be even better if this messenger was from the Great Yu Kingdom. Li Shunji got up from the ground with a careful smile on his face. He came to pay tribute to the Golden Horde this time. Naturally, he also wanted to take care of the Taiji of the Golden Horde. After all, they didn't want to see the cavalry of the Golden Horde appear on the land of Guerrilla, because now they can only hide on the remaining peninsula land. Thank you, Bishan Taiji. Li Shunji gestured to the person beside him, who immediately took out a wooden box. Li Shunji opened the wooden box, and a fist-sized luminous pearl shone brightly on the wooden box covered with the gold foil. Bei Shan just glanced at the night pearl in the box, and he said, we people in the Golden Horde are not interested in these jewels. It is something that those pedantic southerners like. We only like horses, bows and arrows, cattle and sheep and beautiful women. Li Shunji smiled and said, Bei Shan Taiji, how can we not understand your preferences? This time, there are also 10 beautiful girls from the kingdom of Guerrilla accompanied by Xiaoguan, and the king of Guerrilla asked me to bring them in person. To Bishan Taiji. Bei Shan nodded with satisfaction. Very good, you guys are much more sensible than Daoguo. That is, the Great Yu Kingdom is stubborn and dares to disobey the orders of the Golden Horde. It is time to teach me a lesson. The king of Guerrilla has been dissatisfied with the Great Yu Kingdom for a long time. Li Shunji became more and more careful. Bei Shan's eyes narrowed and he said, in this case, the next time the king of Yu is attacked, the king of Guerrilla should send troops to help. Bei Shan Taiji's goodwill was conveyed to the king of Guerrilla when he returned to office, that the Great Yu Kingdom is no longer worthy of being the suzerain of my Guerrilla, and it is time to return the sacrifices of these years. Li Shunji followed Bei Shan's words, but this time he came here to do nothing but pay tribute. He continued, Bei-shan Taiji, the last time Taiji met with a Japanese envoy in Korea, I don't know if Bei-shan Taiji knows, I've heard of this. Bei-shan hesitated and said Taiji has always had a bad relationship with him. In fact, he knows every move of Taiji. Li Shunji said, the Japanese envoy arrived in Seoul again a few days ago, saying that the plan to attack Deng Zhao in the Great Yu Kingdom has leaked, and they want to use our guerrilla to attack Deng Zhao, Bei-shan Taiji, and the Japanese state. Lang Zi's ambition, I don't know if this news is real or fake. If it is borrowed from Koryo, it will be detrimental to the king of Koryo at that time. How can this be good? What did Taiji and Wago say at that time? Bei-shan rolled his eyes at that time. Taiji met the Japanese envoy in Korea, and learned that Yamada Daimyo of the Japanese country also had ambitions to attack the Great Yu Kingdom, so he promised to attack from the north and the south. When the Japanese country attacked the Great Yu Kingdom at that time, the envoy of the Japanese state proposed whether to attack the Great Yu Kingdom through the territory of the Golden Horde through guerrilla because Taiji could see the ambition of the Japanese country. He also did not understand the details of the Japanese country across the ocean, and the Golden Horde letting the Japanese country take the road is like bringing a wolf into the house. But now the Japanese envoy once again proposed the matter of borrowing the road from guerrilla. You mean to let the Golden Horde come forward to reject the Japanese envoy again? Bei-shan asked. Li Shunji nodded. The king of guerrilla was sitting on pins and needles now, and the Japanese envoy was aggressive. In this case, the king of guerrilla sent him to the Golden Horde, hoping to let the Golden Horde stop this matter for him. In this way, they would not have to offend the Japanese state. With a sneer in his heart, Bei-shan has never looked down on this guerrilla kingdom. In his opinion, this small peninsula country is just a grass on the wall, and the wind blows over there and it falls over there. Moreover, he was best at fighting against people. Back then, he relied on the Great Yu Kingdom, and the kingdom of guerrilla had bullied them. So before the king of guerrilla surrendered, the soldiers of the Golden Horde slaughtered several cities in guerrilla. Now that they belonged to the Golden Horde, they also showed their fangs to the Great Yu Kingdom, and at the same time they were afraid of the Japanese state. After hesitating for a while, Bei-shan said, I think the idea of the Japanese envoys is right. They just borrowed you a coastal city. Now the Great Yu Kingdom is our common enemy, and we should cooperate with each other. Bei-shan Taiji. Li Shunji knelt down again. Taiji, the words of the Japanese country cannot be easily believed. They never say anything, and every time they do it is a fraud. 100 years ago, the Japanese country tried to occupy Korea. What should we do if they stay in our Korea this time? After a pause, Li Shunji continued, Taiji, the Japanese country has great ambitions. Our goal is the entire Central Plains dynasty, which is why they are unwilling to become a vassal state of the Golden Horde. Bei-shan frowned. Li Shunji's words made some sense. If Korea was occupied, the power of the Japanese state would extend to the territory of the Golden Horde. Just thinking of the humiliation of Kang Zhao, he felt that it would be a good thing to add a little trouble to King Ki. He said, go back and tell the king of guerrilla not to worry. If the Japanese army refuses to leave, the iron cavalry of our Golden Horde will naturally arrive. Now it is the right thing to attack the Great Yu Kingdom. When Li Shunji heard the words, her face suddenly paled. He was sad in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. He sighed and said, yes, Bei-shan Taiji. With a wave of his hand, Bei-shan told Li Shunji to leave. Now that Bian Khan has handed over guerrillas Yao Zhao to his jurisdiction, he naturally wants to unite his forces against King Ki of King Zhao. But at this time he does not care about guerrilla's life or death for him, as long as it can cause Xiaoming trouble. Everything is worth it. On the other hand, his stupid older brother also pays attention to the morality of the suzerain state. To maintain guerrilla, it's just a group of dogs. You don't understand the truth of letting a dog bite a dog? Bei-shan laughed. Chapter 303 Rotating Drill Press. It was another sunny day. As the greenery on both sides of the Zhaoqing River was dyed green, more and more people went outside the city to take a spring tour. After Wang Zhuan left yesterday, 4 out-of-town merchants and 6 out-of-town refugees were arrested that night in Qingzhou City in order to increase the labor force of the thieves. Xiaoming's immigrant policy seems to have become the target of all forces to install eyeliners for these restless refugees. According to the laws of Qingzhou, it is natural to be executed. At the same time, the Qingzhou newspaper reported this incident, so that the refugees who kept pouring into Qingzhou from other places should be taken as a warning. It's just that Xiaoming knows that absorbing refugees cannot avoid some people with bad intentions, but he can't avoid doctors because of this. After all, This refugee policy still has demographic dividends for Qingzhou in general. The construction of Qingzhou City Road this time, many businessmen use cheap refugees who have no livelihood. Your Highness, here we are. Today is the day when the equipment department handed over the tool to the hydraulic lathe workshop. At the same time, the craftsmen of the lathe workshop will use the tool to produce the hollow barrel for the first time, and provide the final accessories for the flintlock gun. Xiaolong led the horse, and Xiaoming jumped off the horse. At this time, Zhang Liu had arrived in the workshop, and the craftsman in the workshop had already installed the drill bit into the hydraulic drilling machine. One end of this hydraulic drilling machine is a water wheel. In the rapids of the Zhaoqing River, the water wheel rotates rapidly and drives the circular stone disc fixed on the water wheel to rotate. This stone disc acts as an inertial wheel, and in the middle of the stone disc it is the drill bit. The rotation of the stone plate drives the drill bit to rotate. This is the hydraulic drilling machine that Xiaoming asked the craftsmen to produce in the Ming Dynasty. The people already had this kind of drilling machine, and Xiaoming just used it. Your Highness, we are already trying to drill the barrel. Zhang Liu wiped off his sweat and said to Xiaoming, at the other end of the drill, a wooden support holds the steel rods sent from the steel mills. The production of such steel rods is very simple for today's steel workshops and can be made at any time. Zhang Liu also stopped by to pick up a few and went to the lathe workshop. The effect is not bad. At this time, the water conservancy lathe is rapidly rotating under the impetus of the rapid current. This natural force is much stronger than that of human power. The drill bit is effortless when drilling the steel rod, and it looks unstoppable under the contact between the two. The drill has penetrated a little, but only a little. According to the normal working efficiency of a hydraulic lathe, it would take at least 6 days to drill out a gun barrel. This was a record in the Ming Dynasty, but the high-quality knives provided by Xiaoming could greatly reduce this time because the tools of the water conservancy lathes in the Ming Dynasty were damaged very quickly. This was not as good as according to his estimation. 3 or 4 days can be estimated. After all, the location of the workshop is the most turbulent section of the Zhaoqing River, and his knives still have advantages. According to Xiaoming's order, send as much as you grind. Zhang Liu sent the 2 drills that the equipment department grinded yesterday, plus the 2 that were grinded at night. 4 hydraulic drilling machines were started at the same time. After 3 or 4 days, he could have 4 barrels. If the barrels were made of rolled iron, this time would take a month. That is, knives and hydraulic drills reduce the production time of gun barrels by 1/10 of the original. His Royal Highness, you are really far-sighted. This drilling machine has been prepared for a long time, and now it is a drill bit. In this way, the production of the gun barrel is simple and labor-saving, and the position of the hydraulic drilling machine is fixed, so there will be no misalignment. Moreover, a craftsman can take care of 4 or 5 drill presses at the same time, and save manpower, which is really 3 birds with 1 stone. Zhang Liu looked at the current drill press and felt a sense of accomplishment in his heart. Another advantage of the hydraulic drilling machine is the precision problem mentioned by Zhang Liu, which is prone to errors by manual work, and this is relatively much better being praised by an honest craftsman like Zhang Liu. Xiaoming smiled brightly, which showed that the craftsmen were very satisfied with the drilling machine, which also showed that he did not waste his efforts during this time. With a smile, Xiaoming said, although it is much more convenient, the number has to keep up. There are only 200 drill presses in the workshop, but only 4 drill bits. You have to work harder. Zhang Liu said, Your Highness, Chen Bingqiu has already dispatched 500 people from the steel workshop, and the remaining drills will be filled soon. Xiaoming nodded, and his heart became more and more stable when he looked at the drilling machine that was constantly drilling steel rods. 200 drill presses are enough for him now. 1 barrel in 3 days, he can get 2,000 barrels in 1 month, and 20,000 in 10 months if he wants to. He can turn the Qingzhou army from a cold weapon army to a hot weapon army before the end of the year, and this is exactly his plan. Just for this plan, he has to invest millions of silver taels. Enough to consume his meager savings. It's just that now he is in crisis on all sides and has to increase his investment in the army. Even so, he is trembling. After all, he is dealing with a homeless nation with a population of 2 million, with a population of 600,000 households in a fief. The cavalry of this nation has lived on horses since childhood. Everyone is a very elite and experienced cavalry, and the barbarian cavalry is strictly disciplined and not afraid of death. A well-disciplined group of seasoned cavalry was formidable even between the 17th and 19th centuries, and the numbers of the enemy were plentiful. Every time I think of this, Xiaoming is always chilled. The drilling machine was officially put into drilling. Xiaoming went to the military workshop with satisfaction, and the last problem of the flintlock gun was solved. However, there are still several problems to be solved below. One is the problem of the bayonet on the flintlock gun, and the other is the problem of the clearance of the flintlock gun now that he has the experience of his previous life. He naturally won't make the mistakes that the flintlock gun made when he was fumbling forward after it was born at the beginning of the appearance of the bayonet. The handle of the bayonet was stuffed in the barrel, so that the bayonet could not be fired, and the bayonet could not be fired, so in the face of the cavalry charge, the infantry became the lamb to be slaughtered by the cavalry. It wasn't until the advent of the sleeve bayonet that changed this situation, which could be placed directly on the flintlock without affecting the firing. So since he has mature experience, he naturally wants to avoid this mistake. As for the second clearing issue, he decided to use iron clearing instead of the original wooden clearing because the iron rod is not easy to break. This is conducive to improving the firing speed. The former Prussian army fired 5 bullets in 1 minute because of the first use of the iron rod and the proficiency of the soldiers. The last one is the issue of ammunition, but this requires the cooperation of the military workshop and Lutong's gunpowder workshop as the ammunition for the flintlock gun. He plans to use oil paper wrapped bullets. The oil paper bag is equipped with enough bullets and gunpowder to be fired at one time. When fighting, he only needs to bite it open and pour it in. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Cannons for Cotton. His Royal Highness, the merchant ship of the King of Chu has arrived, and it is said that it brought cotton seeds, but it's okay to hand over the artillery to them. It seems that your highness has seen everything. Pang Yukin smiled. Xiaoming is writing a textbook on training the flintlock army. Yesterday, he went around the lathe workshop, the military workshop, the equipment department, and the gunpowder workshop in a row, and he issued all his requirements, whether it is a bayonet, a clear strip, or oil paper wrapped ammunition. These 3 things are things that have no technical content. A bayonet is just a cylindrical shape at the bottom, and the strip is nothing more than an iron rod. It is easier to wrap the bullets in oil paper. Just use oil paper to mix the bullets and gunpowder in advance. What is lacking is not technology, but an idea, or experience, and the flintlock guns are about to be installed. Xiaoming naturally has to consider the construction of modern military academies. Entering the age of firearms, the war will be normalized, and the battle will no longer be the 3-pointed axe before. It is because of this that he wrote textbooks and prepared to teach war to the generals of the King's Hao army. Putting down the brush, Xiaoming walked out of the main hall. Now he has taken off his thick winter padded jacket and walked lightly. As he walked outside the palace, Xiaoming said, Li Keitun can transport cotton so smoothly. Do you think it's the King of Chu who is so kind? This time it's just an exchange of interests. He wants artillery, and I want cotton. That's it. King Wei should be upset again. It is said that King Wei complained a lot about His Highness in Jinling City. I don't care about him. The King of Wei has always been at odds with the King of Chu. We sold the artillery to the King of Chu, and he is naturally unhappy. In this case, we don't need to participate in the conflicts between the various kings. On the contrary, use their contradictions are both right and left. Selling arms is the right way. After analyzing the situation in the Great Yu Kingdom, Xiaoming decided to adopt the isolationist diplomacy of the United States during World War II, not participating in any battles between forces, just making a fortune in silence. After all, the current internal discord in the Great Yu Kingdom cannot be reconciled, and the various vassal kings are suspicious of each other. In this case, it is safer for the fishermen to benefit. Your Highness's words are not bad. King Wei is not happy, so I will buy some artillery pieces and go back. Wouldn't it be enough if there are more? Pang Yukin said that's right, so selling artillery to the King of Chu is also to stimulate the King of Wei to buy more artillery. The two of them talked all the way to the wharf, and Xiaoming sent someone to the military workshop at the same time to send the 30 artillery pieces made to the fleet of the King of Chu, and at the same time unload the cotton seeds. At first Li Keitun went to Chu, and the King of Chu naturally refused to give the cotton seeds to Xiaoming at first. Later, King Wei's artillery was in place. In order to show off his force, King Wei set off fireworks like fireworks at the Yangtze River. This incident seriously stimulated the King of Chu and King Zhao. Xiaoming kept pressing the artillery for Chu Di. There is no cotton seed. Xiaoming can wait. After all, the King of Chu can't stop the cotton sellers. and the textile workshop can still support it. Boarded the merchant ship and inspected the cotton on board. At this time, the messenger of the king of Chu who came with the cotton seeds said, "Your Highness, the king of Chu has an order, and you can't see the artillery. This cotton cannot be handed over to your Highness. If your Highness uses force, I will have to burn the cotton seeds." Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin looked at each other. This messenger was a little timid. He smiled and said, "This king has always kept his word. How could he covet these 3 shipments of cotton seeds?" But the king of Chu chose to send cotton seeds this month with ulterior motives. The envoy of the king of Chu was embarrassed when he heard the words. He naturally understood Xiao Ming's meaning. March was the time to plant cotton, and now it is naturally threatening because once Xiao Ming fails to fulfill his promise, the delay will take another year before cotton can be planted. After waiting at the dock for an hour, the military workshop brought the artillery there. The envoys of the king of Chu checked the artillery and ammunition, and only then did the people agree to get on the boat and carry the cotton seeds down. Xiao Ming personally came to pick up cotton seeds this time because he attached great importance to cotton as a crop. After all, cotton can produce many industrial products, and this clothes is just one of them. There is also a great demand for cotton in medicine if cotton is successfully planted in Qingzhou this time. Qingzhou will not have to worry about the source of cotton in the future, and will no longer be constrained by the king of Chu, which will affect the development of Qingzhou's textile industry this time. The cotton sent by the king of Chu was sent directly to Guanzhong by Xiao Ming. It was the spring plowing season again, and the Qingzhou army once again played the role of farmers. Now that all the land in Guanzhong has been cultivated, the next step is to scatter the cotton seeds. Your Highness, do you really want to grow cotton on the ridge of Guanzhong? Niu Ben asked behind Xiao Ming. As soon as the cotton was delivered to Guanzhong, Niu Ben brought the soldiers over. Although Xiao Ming had already greeted him, Niu Ben was still a little hesitant, because in his opinion, food was the most important thing. Now the grain production in the 6 states has recovered somewhat. Last year, there was a lot of surplus, but now it is impossible to say that there will be turmoil caused by the barbarians again. Not enough rations at that time was a terrible thing. Old general, you don't have to worry about this. There is not much food in Qingzhou now, but King Wei, King Chu, and King Yan have more food. This time, taking advantage of the artillery trade, this king bought a lot of food from them to store up. Already Niu Ben heard the words. This time with a light sigh. He had a strong idea of valuing agriculture and suppressing commerce. Because he commanded the army to fight all the year round, he naturally knew the sorrow when the front line ran out of food. Therefore, food is more important to him than anything else. He actually disagreed with Xiao Ming's current practice of placing equal emphasis on businessmen and farmers. It's just that an army general only needs to be responsible for fighting and training the army. These political propositions are not for him to mention. Now that Xiao Ming brought the cotton seeds, he couldn't hold back. But he asked casually, knowing that in order to make up for the harvest of the official village, Xiao Ming bought food from other places. He finally felt at ease. At least Xiao Ming has not lost his head yet. The cotton seeds were distributed one by one, and the soldiers picked up the seeds and sprinkled them on the fields of Guanzhong. In addition to the Guanzhong owned by King Zhao, Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin also established several slave plantations this year. None of these plantations will grow staple crops this year, either cotton or sugar cane and rapeseed. Although soaps, perfumes, and mirrors can make huge profits for a while, ordinary sugar, vegetable oil, and clothes are the things that the powerful and the common people need. Capturing this market will yield lasting profits. It is for this reason that Xiao Ming boldly opened up plantations. In his plan, King Zhao is based on bulk commodity trade. While self-sufficient in food, he will also adopt a strategy of purchasing and storing large quantities of food. Since last year, various states have started to build concrete granaries. Xiao Ming's goal is to store enough food for the people of Qingzhou for 3 years. This goal is not enough just to rely on the grain harvest in the fief. Chapter 305 Soldiers Raising Pigs. Under the warm sun, the soldiers of the Qingzhou army work diligently. An idyllic and beautiful picture made one's mind clear for a while, but in the blink of an eye, Xiao Ming's eyes were covered with another layer of haze. In such a barbaric age, for this rare piece, he could only defend it with blood and fire. This time, the seeds sent by the king of Chu filled the cabins of 5 merchant ships, and he only used half the money for the cannons to buy the cotton seeds for these 5 ships. Besides the cotton, The 30 guns cost the king of Chu 5, the price of more than 100,000 silver taels. The astonishing trade surplus between industrial products and agricultural products made Xiaoming realize the huge profits brought by industrial products, which made him more determined to dump industrial products in Dao country in exchange for various raw materials. After leaving some of the seeds behind, Xiaoming asked the soldiers to transport the remaining seeds to other slave plantations. At the same time, he and Niu Ben went to an open space outside Guanzhong. On this land, a long shed was being built. Below the shed were red brick walls. Lattices. Royal Highness, this is the pig farm of the King's Zhao army. Niu Ben introduced to Xiaoming. His face was even more bitter than when he was growing cotton after letting the King's Zhao army grow food. Now the King's Zhao army has once again undertaken some other important tasks, raising pigs. Pang Yukan suddenly laughed when he saw Niu Ben's appearance. His Royal Highness, look at the governor Niu, how long his face is drawn. He now thinks that his soldiers are very wronged. Isn't this wrong? Niu Ben said, this kind of food will never be understood. How come we have to raise pigs, and there are no soldiers who raise pigs in Dao Kingdom? Xiaoming said sternly, old general, it's wrong for you to think this way. Is it enough for soldiers to have a full stomach? Next, let's make soldiers eat meat, and soldiers who eat meat will have more strength to train. Why let the army raising pigs? Very simple, the current King's Zhao army is not an ordinary Dao army. Our King's Zhao army has logistical soldiers. The logistical soldiers are responsible for raising pigs for the soldiers to eat. Otherwise, what are the logistical soldiers doing? Can't it be? Niu Ben was speechless by Xiaoming's series of rhetorical questions. Now the King's Zhao army is recruiting, and some soldiers are directly assigned to the logistics force. This is a group of soldiers who do not fight and are only responsible for the army's food, procurement, and transportation. After a pause, Xiaoming continued, moreover, the King's Zhao army will soon be equipped with flintlock guns, and the King's Zhao army will also embark on a different path. The regularization and division of labor of this army must be done. Flint gun. Niu Ben was shocked when he heard the words. He had already heard the news that the military workshop was producing a brand new weapon, but Xiaoming has not told him about it until now. Now that Xiaoming has said it, the time has come. I asked the old general to come here today to talk about the logistics. In the future, farming and raising pigs will be a matter of the logistics army. The main body of the King's Zhao army will only be responsible for training in the future. The second is the matter of the flintlock gun. The King's Zhao army has preparations. Niu Ben asked. Then what exactly is this flintlock gun? This is a powerful long-range weapon. Xiaoming then told Niu Ben the specific appearance, power, and usage of the flintlock gun. Hearing this, Niu Ben was stunned. His Royal Highness means that sword and shield fighters, archers, and pikemen will all be eliminated, leaving only musketeers and cavalrymen in the entire King's Zhao army. After nodding slowly, Xiaoming said, that's right, after the flintlock guns were installed, there was no need for these arms to exist. His Royal Highness, this is absolutely impossible. Abandon melee combat and only keep long-range shooting. In the grasslands, if the cavalry breaks through the formation, the remaining soldiers will only be slaughtered. Your Highness must have 3 or 4. Niu Ben said urgently. Now it is impossible to understand Xiaoming's decision. Pang Yukan also thought the same way. He frowned and hesitated. When a new thing appears, it is bound to be obstructed by the old thing. Xiaoming has already made up his mind, he said. This king doesn't like to talk about it, he just likes to do it. When the Sufa guns are installed in the King's Zhao army, you will understand. Niu Ben and Pang Yukan stopped talking. Since Xiaoming was so confident, they could only put the flintlock gun in his mouth. After mentioning some flintlock guns for Niu Ben to breathe, he continued to talk about the pig farm. It is said that there is no professional farming in the Great Yu country. Now Xiaoming wants to popularize modern agriculture in the fiefs Pang Changshi. How are the piglets in this pig farm? His Royal Highness, we bought 1,000 piglets from the people, and we also bought 50 adult sows and 50 adult boars. In this way, the piglets produced by this sow are estimated to be enough to raise pigs. Field used. Xiaoming looked at a general behind Niu Ben. This general was the captain of the logistics battalion, and his name was Chen Feng. After waving his hand to let Chen Feng come over, Xiaoming said, Chen Xiaoyi, these piglets and adult pigs are yours. You can't feed this king to death in this era. People have no experience in large-scale breeding at all. Xiaoming explained to Chen Feng the essentials of raising pigs in detail while walking. The most feared thing in modern pig farming is swine fever. When encountering this disease, the pigs in the entire pig farm will soon infect each other and die. And the same is true for avian plague. So what He and Chen Feng talked about was how to prevent swine fever and how to tell if a pig has swine fever. This pig house must be cleaned every day. If any pigs have swine fever, they will be burned and buried immediately. The scientific knowledge of pig raising came in. Chen Feng nodded frequently, and he quickly understood the whole set of pig raising procedures. After all, he used to farm and feed chickens, ducks, pigs and dogs. As for the excrement of the pig house, it is uniformly passed to the septic tank next to the pig house, which becomes the fertilizer of the official village. Of course, some chickens and ducks can also be raised next to the pig house. Chickens and ducks sometimes feed on pig manure, and also it can be put into Guanzhong to remove insects. After all, cotton is grown in Guanzhong now, and chickens and ducks don't eat cotton. Xiaoming's set of theories made Chen Feng dumbfounded. If it wasn't for Niu Ben calling Xiaoming His Highness, he really doubted that the person in front of him was King Qi, and that Prince would understand this. Pang Yukin and Niu Ben smiled bitterly. They also lost their tempers completely. This King Qi has a good knowledge of astronomy and geography, but now he even knows this kind of shit, and he seems to be more proficient. This general teaching gave Chen Feng a basic understanding of modern farming, so Xiaoming felt at ease. Pig farms are the key to opening up the breeding industry in Qingzhou. In the future, these logistics soldiers will be retired from the army, and they will all be pig-raising experts when they return home. At that time, with their experience, this modern pig-raising experience can be spread among the people. After staying in Guanzhong for a while, Xiaoming and Pang Yukin left together. Pang Yukin kept his head down and pondered on the way. Xiaoming couldn't help asking when he saw it, "You are still wondering why this king knows how to raise pigs?" Chapter 306 Yu Yunan number 039, S Encounter. His Royal Highness, the lower official, is not thinking about this, but thinking that the Qingzhou army has engineers, logistics troops, and the navy. These military services are not available in Dayou, and it seems that His Royal Highness is ready to implement military reform. For this reason, the lower official is really puzzled. Xiaoming smiled. The military system of the Great Yu Kingdom was still in the era of cold weapons, and the sudden transition to the era of hot weapons naturally caused a lot of opposition. It's just that Xiaoming had to do this, because in the era of musketeers, the Western Army has embarked on the road of regularization, and logistics soldiers and engineering soldiers have appeared. He is just chasing now. He said, "When I was in Chang'an, the king explained the origin of artillery to his father, and the reform of this army also came from a warning from a Western priest, because today's Dayou Kingdom is no longer the previous kingdom of the Celestial Empire, but an established state. In a country that is poor and weak and can only be bullied by barbarians, if you want to catch up, you must dare to reform." Pang Yukin was speechless. It was Xiaoming who developed the artillery at the time of crisis to defend Qingzhou City. He suddenly found that his knowledge could not keep up with the footsteps of the Prince of the Great Yu Kingdom, and perhaps what he was thinking about was just mean in his eyes, but it turned out that what Xiaoming was doing was right. After hesitating for a while, he decided to trust Xiaoming. Xiaoguan thinks too much? After all, the reform of the army involves a lot. Xiaoguan believes that everything His Highness is doing now must be for the people of the fief. Pang Yukin said sternly. Xiaoming nodded. "If you can trust this king will feel at ease, lest a group of civil servants and generals come to the palace to make trouble with this king's hind legs." Pang Yukin laughed dumbly. Xiaoming was afraid that he would lead a group of officials to stop him from carrying out such dangerous reforms to the army, just like in Chang'an. After all, he had done this kind of thing a lot when he was in Chang'an, and it was precisely because of this that Xiao Wangsun disliked Pang Yukin so much. Today is different from the past. His Highness is a bright master. Pang Yukin's eyes flickered, and there was a different meaning in his voice. Xiaoming was immediately alert to this point. He looked at Pang Yukin. Pang Yukin just smiled at him. In Pang Yukin's eyes, he saw a kind of hope, which is the look in the TV series that loyal ministers persuade their loyal princes to compete for the throne. Maybe Pang Yukin didn't dare to think about it before, but as Qingzhou became more and more powerful, he didn't know what his officials and generals thought. Now, seemingly realizing that his behavior was inappropriate, Pang Yukin suddenly smiled and said, "Your Highness, Yu Yun has been out of the sea for more than a month, and I don't know how he is now, yet." Xiaoming was most worried about Yu Yun's fleet. Are they dead or alive now? When the two were worried, Yu Yun, who was sailing at sea, sneezed. A sailor came up behind him and said to him, "Captain, that red-haired ghost is awake. Go and call the translator." Yu Yun rubbed his nose and looked at the sea in front of him. Leaving from Dengzhou, they drove all the way to the Strait of Malacca. On the way, they encountered many pirates who tried to rob them. but they barred them with artillery. It's just that the farther they went west, the more vicious the pirates they encountered, and they even encountered pirate ships with the same guns. This discovery shocked them, but in order to complete the task explained by Xiao Ming, they tried their best to avoid fighting with these pirate ships, and the pirates seem reluctant to take a huge risk to attack them armed to the teeth. In addition to pirates, they often saw the wreckage of warships drifting over at sea, and today they even saw the wreckage of a dozen large sailing warships. There were corpses floating everywhere in the sea water. These corpses were dressed in strange red clothes, and their faces were different from those of the people of Dao. At this moment, he finally understood that Xiao Ming was not talking nonsense in the school. It turned out that there really was a Western country in this world, and they also have sailing warships, artillery, and even a strange stick-shaped weapon. When passing through this sea area where naval battles seemed to have happened, they caught a lot of strange things, and this thing was one of them. Entering the cabin, Yu Yun saw the awakened Westerner. At this time, the translator also arrived, looked at Yu Yun, and asked a question in English. Hearing the words, the Westerner dressed in a red dress immediately replied a few words. What did he say? Yu Yun scratched his cheeks anxiously. The interpreter said, he said he was from Great Britain, he was part of the Third Fleet of Great Britain, and he was the first mate of the Navy. They were attacked by the Dutch in the sea area and asked you if we could send him to the nearest colony. India. A cold sweat broke out on Yu Yun's forehead. He then picked up the stick and said to the interpreter, Great Britain, isn't this what His Highness called Britain? You ask him what it is. The interpreter said another sentence, looked at Yu Yun strangely, and said a few words. He said it was a flintlock gun. If you like it, he can give you a lot, as long as you send him to India, said the translator. Yu Yun's heart sank immediately. When he went to sea, Xiao Ming had already told him many things, and now all these things have come true. You tell him, we can send him to India, but he needs to answer some questions for us. At this time, Yu Yun gave a booklet to the translator with the questions listed by Xiao Ming. The translator took it and began to ask them one by one, but the British did not seem to resist. In an hourglass, the interpreter asked all the questions and returned the booklet to Yu Yun. Yu Yun opened it, and the answers above were filled by the translator. After reading the news, Yu Yun's face became extremely ugly. He said to the translator, you told him that we don't need flintlock guns. If it's just potatoes, peanuts, and corn seeds, can he provide them? The translator asked a few questions, and the Englishman replied with a relaxed look. He said it was very simple. The colonies of India had a lot of grain, and these grains were potatoes, peanuts and corn, said the translator. Yu Yun pondered for a while and said, send him to India. If we can get what His Highness wants, we will return immediately. Now Ryukyu is occupied by the Dutch, and the Dutch are trading with the Japanese country. We have to go back and tell Your Highness. Everyone nodded. Their purpose was not to travel around the world, but to collect information. Now that he got what they wanted, there was no need for a long voyage. After all, the more he went inside, the more dangerous it was. He wanted to keep the only 3 Galen ships in Qingzhou. Chapter 307. On the boundless sea, 3 Galen ships were chopping the waves forward after obtaining the information provided by the British. They are going to send the British to India in exchange for the corn, peanuts, potatoes and other crops they are going to collect this time. Are you pirates from the Great Yu Kingdom? When the Englishman woke up, went to the deck, and after examining the ship, he was surprised to find that the ship was very similar to their battleship, and the design of the ship seemed more reasonable. Confused, he couldn't help but ask Zhang Shaoqing. The translator Zhang Shaoqing is a limited number of translators trained by Xiao Ming. In fact, Xiao Ming started to train translators not long after Bowen College was established, and Zhang Shaoqing is the best one in this batch of translators. There were also 2 translators on the other 2 ships, and their identities were originally poor scholars in Qingzhou. Zhang Shaoqing had already learned that the Englishman in front of him was called Wilson, the chief mate of a British sail cruiser. In Wilson's story, the United Kingdom is now competing with the Netherlands, Portugal, France and other European countries for overseas colonies. Among these countries, they have the worst relationship with the Netherlands and are in a state of war, and each other's warships will always be killed when they meet at sea. No, we are not pirates, we are the fleet of King Qi of the Great Yu Kingdom. Zhang Shaoqing said righteously. Impossible, we have seen the ships of the merchants of the Great Yu Kingdom. You can't have such a ship, and you can't have so many artillery pieces on the ship, and all of you are using cast iron guns. Wilson shook his head repeatedly. Zhang Shaoqing was keenly aware of the information in Wilson's words, and he asked, have you ever been in contact with businessmen from the Great Yu Kingdom? Of course, your merchants from the Great Yu Kingdom can often exchange china and silk for our large amount of silver. Wilson spread his hands. Your china and silk are very popular in our country. Zhang Xiaoqing frowned, and he translated Wilson's words to Yu Yun. His Royal Highness said that he had never heard of Western merchants coming to Diyu for trade in Chang'an. You ask him, where are there merchants trading in Diyu? Zhang Xiaoqing heard the words, and Yu Yun's words were translated to Zhang Xiaoqing. Wilson listened and said, I heard that in Ningbo. I don't know much, but it is said that Dutch businessmen often do business with your people from Dayu and Ningbo. Our fleet once docked in Guangzhou, and we are going to send an embassy there. Your kingdom negotiated with your king about trade, but the gifts our messengers brought to your king were embezzled by local officials, and our messengers were treated unjustly, and our fleet never sailed since then. Yes, and the Dutch later occupied the route Ningbo? This is the fief of the king of Chu. After the translator translated, Yu Yun's brows furrowed tightly. Could it be that the king of Chu has been concealing this matter and secretly doing business with the Dutch? Zhang Xiaoqing hesitated. It's not impossible. In recent years, the Xiao family's banks have spread all over the Dayu country. You said where did he get so much silver to support the bank, and the Xiao family is a vassal of the king of Chu. Maybe the king of Chu really knew about this, but it was a huge amount of money. I am afraid that he is blinded by the profit of lard. Secretly trading with these Westerners, and concealing the matter. Yu Yun said the king of Chu had a great influence in the south, and it was not difficult for him to hide it, and the people of Dayu didn't care about these Westerners, especially those in Chang'an. In their eyes, these people were just barbarians. If this is the case, doesn't the king of Chu know about the guns and guns? Zhang Xiaoqing asked. Yu Yun was also lost in thought at this time. You ask him. Zhang Xiaoqing turned his head and continued to communicate with Wilson. But Wilson just couldn't tell. It's just that Zhang Xiaoqing seemed to see from Wilson's twinkling eyes that this matter was not so simple. Captain, this Englishman seems dishonest. He's hiding something. Zhang Xiaoqing said. Yu Yun frowned. If we ask him, we probably won't be able to get the crops that His Highness wants, but if we don't ask, we won't know the affair between the Dutch and the king of Chu's. Iagwan thinks it's better not to ask questions. Let's go back and tell His Highness the matter. Moreover, we did encounter many merchant ships of the Xiao family during the voyage. This is the evidence. Zhang Xiaoqing said. Yu Yun pondered. It's just that His Highness said that none of these Westerners is a good thing. If we send him ashore, we may not get a reward. Look at the way they stare at our Galen ship, with their greed faces. I'm afraid only their fleet will greet us at that time. Zhang Xiaoqing also remembered Xiaoming's words. He said that he couldn't trust any Westerners, because the Westerners at this time were pirates. If this is the case, the lower official has a plan. Zhang Xiaoqing said to Yu Yun with his ears. Yu Yun nodded frequently. Let's do it like this. They are pirates. We have to be more ruthless than pirates. Take off our navy flag and replace it with a pirate flag. We grabbed. Zhang Xiaoqing smiled and immediately asked the sailor to hang up the pirate flag. Wilson's face turned pale when he saw the pirate flag flying, and he asked nervously, didn't you say you are not pirates? Not just now, but now, Mr. Wilson. I think you must answer our questions honestly now, or we'll have to throw you down. Wilson shuddered. In his knowledge, there was a reason to talk to a country's fleet, but it was impossible to talk to a pirate. Okay, I said that the Dutch were indeed deceived by your king of Chu at first, but later they learned that the king of Chu was not the king of the Great Yu Kingdom, so they protested to the king of Chu, but it was only the Chu king. The king promised to give the Dutch the most preferential treatment, and the Dutch also know that there are several kings in your Dayu country. The king of Chu is one of the most powerful kings. They decided to support the king of Chu, and they even sold antiques like arquebuses. I gave a lot to the king of Chu. Masquerade? Zhang Xiaoqing's brows furrowed even tighter. Wilson continued, the king of Chu still wanted the Dutch artillery very much, but the Dutch were not fools. Once the king of Chu had the artillery, they could put the artillery on the ship. It was already difficult for the Dutch to maintain the ocean fleet, and they did not want to lose it. Your last bargaining chip. After saying this, Wilson tentatively said, we in the UK also want to support a king to do business in the Great Yu Kingdom. If you really come from a king, I can help you introduce it. Believe me. The fleet of Great Britain will soon be to beat the Dutch. It would be a wise choice. Chapter 308. The waves crashed against the huge hull of the Galen, and the wind was howling in the distance. A dark cloud was approaching, which heralded an imminent storm. Our Highness doesn't need support from you people with ulterior motives. The words translated by the translator made Yu Yun spat fiercely. Now the facts are very clear. The King of Chu has become the lackey of the Dutch? It is no wonder that the King of Chu has become more and more domineering over the years. What should I do? The translator looked at Yu Yun according to the plan just now, let his companions take things in exchange for him. They and the Dutch are not good people. Looking at the sea that was dyed black by dark clouds, Yu Yun's heart was heavy. Whether it was a Dutch or a British, this confirmed the knowledge Xiao Ming told them in the school. Now the Western powers have assigned their sphere of influence to the Great Yu Kingdom, and according to Wilson, flintlock guns are already common equipment in the West, and sailing warships sail around the world in the Great Yu Kingdom. The Dutch had introduced the arquebus to the fief of the King of Chu. This news was extremely important and was enough to give the King of Chu a fatal blow. In the courtroom with a sigh, he looked at King Zhao on the chart, and only hoped that King Qi had produced a flintlock gun now. King Zhao, military workshop. After a burst of firecracker-like sound, there was a burst of cheers from the military workshop test firing range. On the test firing range, Xiao Ming was holding a brand new flintlock gun, and the muzzle was still smoking. The stock of the flintlock pistol is made of brown mahogany, with a bayonet on the barrel. The position of Xiao Ming's finger is the position of the silver sparkling movement. The entire flintlock pistol is 107 centimeters long, 0.75 caliber, and weighs 4 kilograms, containing a bayonet 60 centimeters long. While busy with cotton planting these 2 days, the first gun barrel was officially produced, and Zhang Liu sent the gun barrel to the military workshop without stopping. Song Changping, who had completed the assembly of the rest of the accessories, assembled the barrel at this time, and a flintlock gun was officially born. And Xiao Ming, who got the news, also rushed to the military workshop, and Lu Tong also brought the ammunition. Your Highness, where did the bullet go? Chen Qi looked ahead, wondering where Xiao Ming's shooting target was. This king doesn't know either. Xiao Ming played with a flintlock pistol in his hand with satisfaction. The accuracy of this flintlock pistol is very poor. It needs concentrated firepower to exert its power. I don't know where the bullet flew to just now. Although Song Changping made a flintlock gun, he didn't know how to use it at all. They didn't realize it until Xiao Ming came over. It was almost no different from a cannon. The only difference now is the flint firing on the back of the gun. So bows and arrows are not as good as? Chen Qi looked strange. Then why does His Highness produce these things? It would be better to have Song Changping follow me to produce artillery. Song Changping pulled a group of people to produce muskets. This Chen Qi was distressed. Now that muskets are inferior to artillery pieces, he took the opportunity to say that he wanted to recover the loss. You can make artillery, but you don't understand it when you are marching and fighting. This flintlock gun is much more important than the artillery. This king can count on it to drive the barbarians away. Xiao Ming stroked the flintlock pistol lightly. The flintlock gun was finally produced. Xiao Ming's mood suddenly relaxed. At least King Zhao once again narrowed the generation gap between Western weapons. Everyone was happily talking about the musket, when suddenly there was a sound of horseshoes outside the military workshop. The figures of Niu Ben and Lu Fei appeared in front of everyone. His Royal Highness, the flintlock gun has been produced? Niu Ben looked expectant. Xiao Ming nodded and threw the other 2 flintlock guns, one for each person. Your Highness, this guy is worth a spear. Lu Fei held the flintlock gun, and the first thing he noticed was the bayonet on the wall. Niu Ben nodded. No wonder His Highness said that the pikemen will be disbanded, and now the musketeers that are formed are the pikemen. The old general now understands that this musketeer is both a long-range unit and a short-range unit. Facing the barbarians' iron cavalry charge, the musketeer can shoot from a distance, and can fight close to the body, and will not be slaughtered by the cavalry so easily. There was excitement in Niu Ben's eyes. This flintlock gun was very magical. In Xiao Ming's mouth, he said, His Royal Highness, how do you use this gun? Xiao Ming smiled and said to Chen Qi, take a set of plate armor and hang it 80 meters away. Chen Qi got the order and took a set of plate armor and hung it on the target 80 meters away. At this position, it was almost the maximum effective range of the flintlock gun. Then he said to Niu Ben and Lu Fei, you stand on both sides of this king and learn from this king. While speaking, Xiao Ming handed the ammunition for the flintlock gun to the 2 of them. Although Niu Ben and Lu Fei were strange, they still followed Xiao Ming's words. At this time, Xiao Ming put the flintlock gun on the ground, bit the ammunition and poured the gunpowder and the projectile into the barrel of the flintlock gun. Then, he used a clear rod to compact the gunpowder and the projectile, and sprinkled some gunpowder in the gunpowder pool, held up the flintlock gun and aimed at the plate armor. Niu Ben and Lu Fei followed suit and raised their flintlock guns. Fire. Xiao Ming gave an order, pulled the trigger, and another gunshot followed by blue smoke, and 2 gunshots on both sides of him. It's just that the posture of Niu Ben and Lu Fei holding the guns is a bit wrong. and the guns in their hands are almost unsteady. It's quite powerful. Having seen the artillery, Lu Fei was not as shocked by the flintlock gun as when he first saw the artillery. Unlike Chen Qi, he felt that this was a shrunken cannon. Did you hit? Lu Fei said excitedly, putting down the gun. Niu Ben also showed a look of anticipation, and they all had high expectations for the flintlock gun. It's just that the people who went to investigate came back quickly and missed. No, I aimed very accurately. Niu Ben didn't believe it. Xiao Ming did not respond, but said, second round of shooting. Niu Ben and Lu Fei scratched their heads and had to reload and shoot again. Shot. The person who went to investigate took the plate armor back after 2 rounds of shooting. Niu Ben felt that the flintlock gun was not as accurate as a bow and arrow, but after seeing the hole in the plate armor, he was silent, and the bullet actually completely penetrated the plate armor. Old general, you must be disdainful of the accuracy of this flintlock gun now. But this king is not here to show you this, he said to Chen Qi and Song Changping. The 3 of you come here. To Chen Qi, Song Changping and Zhang Liu nodded excitedly, immediately took the flintlock gun and stood in the position of the 3. The old general has been on the battlefield for a long time, and his arrows are unparalleled. Naturally, he can penetrate Yang with 100 steps, but with a flintlock gun, even a person like Chen Qi who has never touched a sword can kill an experienced barbarian cavalry at such a long distance. Bang bang. As he was talking, Chen Qi and the others had already opened fire. Bingo. The investigators soon came back to report, and Niu Ben's face suddenly became heavy when he heard the words. Chapter 309 Strategy. What is the advantage of the barbarians over the Great Yu Kingdom? On the test firing range of the military workshop, Xiao Ming asked Niu Ben. Of course it's a barbarian cavalry. Niu Ben said. Lu Fei also nodded, and the cavalry of the barbarians are all skilled in bowing and horses, but it takes us a few years to train a cavalry. Once it is consumed in the war, we will lose a lot, and we will not be able to organize again for a long time. Attack. Xiao Ming nodded. You're alright, whether it's cavalry, archer or sword and shield, the Great Yu Kingdom needs several years of training to narrow the gap with the barbarian soldiers one-on-one, and the barbarians are not. They need training, because they are qualified warriors when they grow up, and they have a foundation for more than 10 years of training, which is why the Daiyu Kingdom has been defeated by the barbarians these years. But it's different now. Xiao Ming took the flintlock spear and said, it only takes 3 months for this king to let an ordinary commoner easily kill a barbarian cavalry, which is equivalent to the bull horses trained by the barbarians since childhood and shooting in front of the flintlock spear. It doesn't work anymore. Niu Ben and Lu Fei nodded slowly. The flintlock gun doesn't need much strength. As long as the trigger can be pulled, it can kill people. Moreover, it was able to penetrate plate armor at a distance of 80 meters. Chen Qi, Zhang Liu and others have proved this. Your Highness will understand at the end. It's just that this flintlock spear has such poor accuracy. How can we deal with the barbarian cavalry? Niu Ben asked. This is the need for large-scale equipment and musket formations. Xiao Ming said, the one you fought in the past will soon be a thing of the past. Now go to Bowen College to study. Niu Ben and Lu Fei were suddenly embarrassed. The advent of artillery has changed their way of fighting, and now that the flintlock gun is produced, their way of fighting is about to change again. Now they feel that they can't keep up with Xiao Ming's footsteps, but as long as they can deal with the barbarians, they are willing to do anything. The flintlock gun was tested in the military workshop. Niu Ben and Lu Fei also had preliminary contact with the main battle equipment of the future King Zhao army. Xiao Ming relaxed. The rest is the issue of production, equipment, and training. After all, the weapons are still used by humans. If the training can't keep up, the flintlock guns are also burning sticks in their hands. His Royal Highness, now that there is a flintlock gun, is artillery less important? Chen Qi was a little sour, and he wanted to participate in the development of more weapons. Xiao Ming glared at him. Your biggest problem now is that you can't shoot too much. The importance of artillery will not change, and will only become more important. You have to calm down and think about the role of artillery on the battlefield application. Your Highness is talking about field guns? Chen Qi suddenly laughed. That's right. Once the flintlock guns are installed, the King Zhao army will have to fight with the barbarians on the grasslands. The cumbersome cannons on the city walls are useless. Xiao Ming said. Chen Qi nodded. In fact, he had been thinking about a field gun all this time. Now that the flintlock gun is about to be installed, he has to hurry up. He also instructed the military workshop to focus on the production of flintlock guns. And Xiao Ming returned to the palace. Now that the flintlock gun has been successfully produced, the next thing he has to consider is the strategic issue of King Zhao in the future. Now the barbarians occupy Yaozhou, the homeland of the Great Yu Kingdom, which is like inserting a knife in the heart of the Great Yu Kingdom at this time. The Japanese country above the East China Sea was about to move. If the barbarians and the Japanese country really attacked from both sides, he would definitely lose in the two-front battle. Therefore, he had to drive the barbarians out of Yaoxiao. In this way, the barbarians could not bypass Jizhao and attack Qingzhou from the flank, and the pressure on the front line of Kangzhou would disappear at that time. He can free up his hands to vigorously develop the navy to pack up Japan and Korea, open up trade routes by sea, and transport his goods from the sea to the southern states of the Great Yu Kingdom. After all, his commodities are only circulating in the north of the Yangtze River, and the market south of the Yangtze River is not very profitable. Thinking all the way, Xiao Ming returned to the palace. Seeing Xiao Ming coming back, Aster smiled and said, "Congratulations, Your Highness." "Hexy, His Highness is getting married this year. What nonsense are you talking about?" "Girl." Xiao Ming was in a good mood just after the test shot of the flintlock gun, and at this moment he laughed with Aster. Aster giggled and said, "Your Highness, Aster is not talking nonsense. Feng Shilin is waiting for His Highness in the main hall. It is said that the Emperor's decree for marriage has come down, and His Highness will get married this year." "Feng Shilin is here?" Xiao Ming frowned. He had not received any news that Feng Deshu was coming to Qingzhou before. However, since Feng Deshu came to Qingzhou in person, something important must have happened, so he quickly walked a few steps into the main hall. "Your Highness." In the main hall, Feng Deshu was pacing back and forth. Seeing Xiao Ming coming in, Feng Deshu came towards Xiao Ming. "Feng Shilin." Xiao Ming cupped his hands and greeted him. "When I came to Qingzhou this time, why didn't Feng Shilin say hello? This king can also greet him in person." Feng Deshu said, "Your Highness, don't make fun of the old slave. This time I came to Qingzhou, the old slave is here to report good news and sorrow. I came here in a hurry, but there is no need for these false courtesies." Xiao Ming put away his smile and asked, "In that case, Feng Shilin, please speak." Feng Deshu said, "This good news is of course the marriage between Your Highness and Fei Yueyir, the youngest daughter of the Book of Fei's Huangshu. Knowing that the barbarians have now built two kinds of artillery, one of which is called the urban siege artillery, and the other is called the mighty artillery. Knowing this, Your Majesty has been sleepless for several nights. The Great Yu Kingdom is suffering. How can it be good to add artillery now?" It turned out to be this. Xiao Ming's heart sank, and it seemed that the news that Wang Xuan brought back was correct. "His Royal Highness has also learned?" Feng Deshu asked. Xiao Ming nodded. Feng Deshu sighed. "Since Your Highness knows about this, the old slave is relieved, but the point is not this matter, but that Your Majesty has the intention of moving the capital now." "Moving the capital?" Xiao Ming was taken aback. Feng Deshu seemed to have a premonition that Xiao Ming would have this reaction. He said, "Faced with the barbarians, Chang'an is safe to defend, and the king of Zhao is unreliable. Now that the barbarians have more weapons, they are ready to move, and the next time they raise their troops, they will definitely be aggressive. Your Majesty is also thinking about the safety of the millions of people in Chang'an." And the royal family. Hearing this, Xiao Ming gave a wry smile. In fact, the matter of moving the capital was not mentioned by Xiao Wangxuan when he was the emperor. Several previous emperors had discussed this matter. Chang'an faces the barbarians, and it can be said that they are in danger all the time. Now that Xiao Wangxuan learned that the barbarians had created a weapon like artillery, he must feel that Chang'an City could not stop the barbarian artillery. P.S. In order to impact the high-quality products, there will be 3 shifts tonight and 6 shifts tomorrow. Chapter 310. P.S. There are 2 chapters first, and there are 4 more chapters tonight. The faint scent of tea wafts in the main hall. Feng Deshu picked up the tea and took a sip. He looked at Xiao Ming's expression, trying to distinguish Xiao Ming's reaction to this. When the matter of moving the capital was brought up in Chang'an, it was strongly opposed by the Queen of Zhao, the prince and others. The officials bought by the king of Zhao also moved out of the ancestral family law, and the feng shui taboos kept admonishing. It's just that everyone knows that this is just the selfishness of Queen Zhao and the crown prince, because once the capital is moved, King Zhao's influence on Xiao Wangxuan will be greatly reduced. So where does the royal father want to move the capital? Feng Deshu came to mention this matter this time. Naturally, it was not a simple home chat, but a test of Xiao Ming's attitude nowadays. Only Bianzhao is the most suitable land for the royal city. Once it is moved to Bianzhao, it will be the king of Zhao to the west, then Heulaoguan. The north of the imperial city is the king of Yuan, the southeast of the imperial city is the king of Wei, and the northeast is the king of Wei. It is His Highness, the 3 kings guarding the capital, since the imperial city has been safe and sound. Feng Deshu smiled and seemed to be satisfied with the location of the new capital. This Bianzhou is Kaifeng in later generations, and Tokyo in the Song dynasty in later generations. Xiao Wangxuan's choice of this location for Xindu can be said to be extremely shrewd, just like what Feng Deshu said. Once the capital is successfully moved, the imperial city can rely on the 3 royal vassal kings, and they have enough confidence to say no to vassal kings with different surnames. Father is thoughtful. This Bianzhou is a treasure land of feng shui. Xiao Ming hesitated and said he was calm on the surface, but in fact his heart was turbulent. In modern thinking, the imperial city was an economic circle. Chang'an is rich, and the surrounding states and counties will also be driven to become rich. If the imperial city is really chosen in Bianzhou, his products will save a lot of transportation costs in the future. After all, Chang'an is 800 kilometers away from Qingzhou, while Bianzhou is only 400 kilometers away. From Bianzhou, it only takes 100 kilometers to reach Yunzhou, the westernmost part of Huizfief. This distance is similar to the distance between Qingzhou and Jinling City. The distance between the imperial city and Huizfief was shortened by half, which meant that his fief status suddenly became important, and because of his own existence, he may be able to avoid the chaos of the world due to the change of a vassal king with a different surname. After all, if the foreign aggression is not eliminated now, he doesn't want Diyu to be in a mess first in the country. So in general, this relocation of the capital is not harmful to me. On the contrary, I can still gain the same geographical advantage over the imperial city as King Zhao. So your highness supports the emperor's move to the capital? Feng Deshu smiled slightly. Now Chang'an City has become a pot of quarrel over the move of the capital. If this is the case, his highness should go to the court to bear his will, and the ministers in the court will not be involved in this matter. It is true, your highness. Xiao Ming was stunned for a moment. He always didn't like to pay attention to the affairs of the court. Feng Deshu said this because he wanted to make a statement that he supported the move of the capital. He smiled a little. It turned out that he was no longer the dispensable king of Qi in the Great Yu Kingdom, and he also had his own weight in the court of the Great Yu Kingdom. But think about it, he is no different from a senior official in the frontier, and in the eyes of Chang'an officials, he is also a pivotal figure. After a long time of trouble, Feng Deshu, while reporting the good news, also wrote a letter to support the move of the capital. Now Feng Deshu should go to King Wei's place. It's just that what he thought was too simple, and Feng Deshu's words below made him suddenly stunned. Since His Highness supports moving the capital, I am afraid that His Highness will have to contribute to the construction of this imperial city. Feng Deshu looked like a cunning man. Xiao Ming's face turned pale. The construction of the imperial city was no joke. He said, Feng Shilin, it's not like you don't know the situation of this king's fiefdom. Now that you have the money to build the imperial city, Your Highness has misunderstood. It is natural that the imperial court will pay for the construction of the imperial city. Your Highness will only take advantage of it, so how can you suffer a loss? Feng Deshu looked like you understood. Xiao Ming was relieved. Feng Deshu meant that he could contract the construction of the imperial city, and this big construction project was a money-making business. If so, this is indeed a good thing. He doesn't care where Xiao Wangxuan builds the imperial city, but it is a good thing that he can make money. But for Xiao Ming, he actually prefers that the imperial city be built in Yaozhou rather than Bianzhou. The emperor guards the gate of the country, and the king dies, and he is more willing to see the coming of a glorious and prosperous age. It's just that Yaozhou is still in the hands of the barbarians, and it would be a joke to mention this after talking about moving the capital. Feng Deshu suddenly smiled and said, Your Highness, when the old servant came, he saw that the Qingzhou city was undergoing major civil engineering repairs, and he also saw a lot of magical roads in the city. I don't know what this is. This is a cement road, Xiao Ming said. He rolled his eyes and said to Feng Deshu, What does Feng Shilin think of this road? Yes, it is similar to the stone road in Chang'an City. It is very hard, and rain or snow will not affect walking at all. Feng Deshu pondered. When he entered the city, he took a fancy to this kind of concrete road and liked it very much, although the matter of moving the capital is far away, and it will be debated for a long time in the courtroom. He might as well show his construction ability in advance. What he lacks now is the accumulation of original capital. The construction of this imperial city is a big money-making project, and he has no reason not to compete. If this relocation of the capital is successful, then it is estimated that the princes will compete for the construction of the imperial city. Feng Shilin only saw the surface. Xiao Ming said with a smile, It's still early. It's better for Feng Shilin to follow this king to see really interesting things. Really? Feng Deshu showed deep interest. After all, the two immediately left the palace and headed for Qingzhou Street. Now, 1/5 of the roads in Qingzhou City have been completed, and many underground pipes have been laid. Xiao Ming led Feng Deshu not to other places but to the Wei family restaurant. Your Highness, are you going to invite the old slave to have a drink? Feng Deshu laughed when he arrived at the place. No, Feng Shilin, please look here. Xiao Ming pointed to a trench where cement pipes were buried. What is this? Feng Deshu asked in confusion. This is a pipe made of cement. From the Weijia restaurant, a pipe is connected to the main pipeline in front of the door. Guests who enter the main restaurant in the future can directly use the toilet in the restaurant, and even if there is a heavy rain in the city in the future, it will not work. There will be water accumulation. Xiao Ming explained. Feng Deshu was a little confused. Isn't this toilet in the restaurant? All you need is a dung bucket. Isn't it superfluous, Your Highness? Feng Shilin, the difference is here. With this pipe, there is no need for a dung bucket, and the guests who enter the main restaurant will live more comfortably. Look at the ceramic pipe that leads from upstairs to downstairs. Every room in a restaurant will have a flush toilet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311. The Shock of the Toilet. Flushing the toilet? What is this? Looking at the craftsman who was installing the ceramic pipes in the restaurant, Feng Deshu is at a loss. Xiao Ming is proud of his heart. He established an underground drainage system to completely improve the sanitary environment of Qingzhou City. Once a Black Death in Europe made Europeans begin to pay attention to urban hygiene in the same way, the plague is also terrible. To prevent the plague, we must start with hygiene. At the same time, this is also a measure to change the appearance of Qingzhou. He doesn't want to go out and see poop after laying sewage pipes. Xiao Ming's next plan is to promote flush toilets. Although there are no plastic pipes in Dao country, ceramic pipes can be completely replaced, and they are more durable and durable. Plastic pipes are only used because of their low price. Therefore, for Xiao Ming, it is not difficult to manufacture a modern toilet system, not to mention that now the lathe is put into use, even if it is a copper valve. There is no problem. The toilet is made of ceramics in modern times. Needless to say, is Feng Shilin waiting to go? Xiao Ming did not answer, but instead asked. Feng Deshu was aroused by the strange incident in Qingzhou. He said, in order to see it, the old slave can stay for 2 days. This is easy to handle. It is estimated that the toilet will only be produced in 2 days. When Feng Shilin sees it, it will not be too late to leave. Xiao Ming said, if Xiao Wangxun finally decides to move the capital, what Feng Deshu saw in Qingzhou this time will definitely win the project yourself to get a head start. Feng Deshu smiled and nodded, but he wanted to see how much means this King Qi had. After arranging Feng Deshu to stay, Xiao Ming sent someone to ask the supervisor of the ceramic workshop. When the road construction started, he gave them the structural diagram of the flush toilet. Jiating soon brought news that the first toilet was being fired and could be brought in within 2 days. Xiao Ming nodded slightly. When designing the toilet, he designed the diameter standard of the drainage pipe, which is the modern industry standard. The purpose of this is for mass production, so that the toilet produced will not be worried that it will not fit because of the different diameters of the pipes in the room. After a day, the craftsman of the ceramic workshop delivered a pure white toilet to the Wei family restaurant. This toilet is almost indistinguishable from modern toilets. The only difference is that the toilet is constructed of ceramic or copper, which can be described as a bit luxurious. When the toilet was delivered, Xiao Ming instructed the craftsman to install the toilet in the guest room on the first floor of the Weijia restaurant. The Weijia restaurant has been undergoing renovations these days. Now each room has reserved a ceramic tube protruding from the ground, and the craftsman aligns the toilet with the ceramic tube socket. Then, connect the water inlet pipe behind the toilet to a riser that runs through the Weijia restaurant. After the craftsman finished the construction, Xiao Ming said to Feng Deshu, Feng Shilin, this is the toilet. After the inlet pipe and the riser are connected, the sound of water begins to pour into the toilet from the riser, which is ready to use. Feng Deshu was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a strange thing before, and he couldn't help asking, how should this be used? Xiao Ming laughed. There were 2 buttons on the toilet. Pressing any water could flush the filth down. He stepped forward and pressed it, and immediately filled the toilet tank with water. Interesting. Feng Deshu immediately shouted. Xiao Ming said at this time, does Feng Shilin want to try it? Feng Deshu nodded excitedly. Xiao Ming led the people out of the room. After a while, there was a sound of water pumping from the room, and Feng Deshi walked out with a smile on his face. He gave Xiaoming a thumbs up. In this country of great you, this old slave only serves His Highness Feng Shilin has won the prize. These are just gadgets. Xiaoming said modestly. His Royal Highness is too modest, but it's just this skill, and the construction of a new capital is indispensable, Your Highness. Feng Deshi said sincerely, but Your Highness, where does the water in this toilet come from? In modern times, because there is running water, it is natural and convenient to withdraw the toilet, but in Dayu country, it can be a lot of trouble. He said, actually, the toilet can be flushed with water by itself, but this king plans to build this Weijia restaurant into the best restaurant in Dayu country. It's a comfortable restaurant, so naturally I have to think of something else. Can Feng Shilin see the tower outside this restaurant? Feng Deshi recalled that when he came, he did see a new tower on the side of the Wei family restaurant. This tower was similar to an arrow tower, but the top was sealed, like a big box. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but nodded. The water comes from the tower, and every day the shopkeeper of the restaurant will lift the water up and pour it into the water tower. From the tower, there is a ceramic pipe leading to the riser on the roof of the restaurant, and the water will flow down the upright pipe. This is the water in the toilet, and there will be more uses for this water in the future, but it's a pity that Feng Shilin is going back. Xiaoming deliberately stimulated. Feng Deshi felt an itch in his heart when he heard this. King Qi really pinched his heart. He loved cleanliness the most in his life, and this flushing toilet was just too much for his taste. However, he also knew that the flush toilet was used with pipes, and the water tower would be clean only when used together, and he couldn't help sighing in his heart. Hey, His Highness brought the old slave to see these things, so how can the old slave go back? When I went to the toilet just now, there was still paper next to the toilet. Although the palace used silk and satin, it is rare, not to mention this just an ordinary restaurant. Feng Deshu's expression made Xiaoming laugh out loud. People like Feng Deshu who enjoy a good life in the palace are full of praise for this drainage system, not to mention the guests staying in the restaurant accompanying Feng Deshu back. Feng Deshu and Xiaoming talked about the drainage pipe all the way, and they were still very interested, but he had to return to his life as soon as possible. He had to leave King's Hao with regret. His Royal Highness, this Wei family restaurant has been installed, and our palace can use it anytime. Aster and Luluo accompanied the whole process this time, and naturally they also saw the flush toilet, and they were also anxious in their hearts. Don't worry, this underground pipe can't be used yet. At that time, it was just to let Feng Shilin experience it. After all the pipes are cleared, it will be fine. How could this king forget the palace? Xiaoming smiled. Luluo said, that's right. If this channel can be used when His Royal Highness gets married, the princess will definitely have the same expression as Feng Shilin. Does it even need to be said? Let me tell you, now Chang'an has more officials and people, but it will not be as good as our King's Hao in the future. Speaking of this, Xuan's face was smug before they knew it. They all regarded King's Hao as their home. Xiaoming shook his head. This urbanization has only just begun, and King's Hao will only become more and more comfortable in the future. Chapter 312 Omen of the Locust Plague. The sky was hazy, and the night had not yet completely faded away at this time. On the streets of King's Hao, a person was in a hurry. Pang Yukin took a report and was heading towards the Key Palace. The matter in this report is very serious to him, and it is likely to endanger the farming of the 6 states. Pang Changshi came very early today. His Highness took Feng Shilin around King's Hao City yesterday. He may be a little tired and he hasn't gotten up yet. Luluo blocked Pang Yukin from the bedroom. Pang Yukin showed anxiety. This matter is a big matter and cannot be delayed. I'd like to ask Miss Luluo to call Her Highness. Luluo was a little unhappy. From her point of view, King Qi was so hardworking that it was rare to be able to sleep a little longer. This is true of Pang Yukin. What happened? When Luluo was hesitating, Xiaoming's voice came from the room. Pang Yukin immediately said loudly, His Royal Highness, a few days ago, Xiaoguan received a letter from a friend in Jizhao. He said that Jizhao has not rained for several months, and there is a precursor to a locust plague. Signs of a locust plague. Inside the house, Xiaoming was slowly getting dressed. Hearing that, he didn't care about his clothes and walked out directly. Yes, Your Highness, as the saying goes, locusts are caused by extreme drought, and there must be locusts in a prolonged drought. This friend of Ziguan said that there was very little rain in Jizhao last year, and the drought caused a decrease in the food supply last year. Many people have no surplus food at home. Now spring plowing is about to begin, but the arable land is dry and cracked, and it is impossible to plow. Looking back on the early spring of this year, Our King Zhao only had a light rain and it never rained again. Speaking of which, Pang Yukin's expression was a little dignified. Xiao Ming's face was a little embarrassed. He said, "It's okay, you continue to talk His Royal Highness." According to historical records, since ancient times, when this drought and locust plague appeared, Jizhao, Bianzhao, and King Zhao were often affected together, and natural disasters blocked. So after receiving the letter, the lower official ordered the 6 prefectures to go out for inspection, and the result was I found that the number of locusts in the fields this year has indeed increased a lot in previous years. And His Highness should plan ahead and buy a large amount of food reserves in case of unexpected events. After that, Pang Yukin had a deep worry on his face. Is it really the little ice age? Xiao Ming smiled wryly. The Jizhao, Bianzhao, and King Zhao lines that Pang Yukin said were basically equal to the modern Hebei, Henan, and Shandong areas even in modern times. This area is a drought-prone area with a high incidence of locust plagues. In Xiao Ming's memory, several large locust plagues occurred in the Great Yu Kingdom several decades ago, causing the people to starve and die. And there were even cases where the civilians rose up. Taking a deep look at Pang Yukin, Xiao Ming has a hint of admiration in his eyes. This is his long history. He can see the details and plan ahead. He said, "How is the grain reserve now?" "Go back to your highness, the grain reserves in the 6 states are only enough for 1 year. The severity of this locust plague is unknown. We should deal with it in the worst case. Well, now you immediately inform Li Kaidan that he is now bartering goods in exchange for a large amount of food to enter King Zhao, reducing some temporarily unnecessary things." Xiao Ming ordered, putting on his clothes. He continued, "Now you immediately prepare a memorial and report this matter to the court, so that the court can take precautions in advance." Pang Yukin wrote down Xiao Ming's words one by one. His Royal Highness, the friend of Xiaoguan, also said that after the drought, King Yuang not only did not reduce taxes, but increased them, saying that it was to prevent the barbarians from needing to overhaul Jizhao city, and Xiaoguan was worried that King Yong's actions would make the disaster worse, spread to our place. Xiao Ming frowned when he heard the words. Between the vassal king and the vassal king, the well water did not break the river, and it was inconvenient for him to accuse King Yong of his behavior, but Pang Yukin's worry was not unreasonable. Today in the Great Yu Kingdom, the gentry and clans have annexed a large number of land among the people, and the relationship between the people and the government is already in jeopardy. If King Yong came here at this time, it is not impossible this king understands what you mean, but this is not something that this king should manage. It is already a matter of time to bring this matter to the court. The rest of the matter is up to the father and the emperor to decide." Xiao Ming said loudly, putting on his clothes. Xiao Ming continued, "Now let's think about how to prevent a locust plague from happening in the 6 states." Pang Yukin immediately frowned. "Your Highness, this locust plague is a natural and man-made disaster. It must be because the dignitaries of the Great Yu country have done too much in these years. God wants to punish the Great Yu country. Since it is God's will, how can we prevent it?" "Bullshit." Xiao Ming angrily scolded Pang Yukin. "The king of laws just praised you for your knowledge and knowledge, so plan ahead, and now you are telling this king about these nonsense things. This king does not believe in heaven, but only believes that people can conquer heaven." When Xiao Ming said this, Pang Yukin froze in place. This was the first time Luo saw Pang Yukin so shriveled in front of Xiao Ming. She couldn't help but snickered while covering her mouth. Pang Yukin's old face was a little unbearable, but he really couldn't deal with the locust plague. He said, "Please also express your highness, eat, yes, people eat, chickens, ducks, toads, as long as they can eat locusts, they will be sent to the fields." Xiao Ming said, "Go and tell Li Kaidan, in addition to buying food, buy a lot during this time. When entering chickens, ducks and geese, this king will also publish the prevention of locust plagues in the newspaper, and let the people take the initiative to breed chickens, ducks and geese." In Xiao Ming's Science and Technology Library, there are many methods for preventing and controlling locusts, but the most practical method in Daewoo is biological control. According to data, 2,000 ducks can eat all the locusts on 4,000 acres of land. Pang Yukin had never heard of Xiao Ming's arguments, but what Xiao Ming said was right and must be well-founded. He bowed and walked outside the palace. "His Royal Highness, this locust plague is so terrifying, can it really be prevented by raising a few ducks?" Luo asked hesitantly. Xiao Ming sighed. "The locust plague has not yet formed a climate, and timely prevention and control can still see some results. What this king is worried about is not King Zhao, but Jizhao. King Yuang has always been brave and reckless. I am afraid that this locust plague cannot be dealt with in time. At that time, There will be a famine in Jizhao again. That's right, there are still many people from King Yong's land who have fled to King Zhao. If there is a catastrophe, wouldn't it be that a large number of refugees will come here again? Isn't what your highness lacks right now? If a large number of refugees come here, wouldn't it solve his highness' urgent need? A voice suddenly came, but it was Aster who came over with a bowl of mouthwash tea. Sister's words are wrong. How could your highness take advantage of others' danger? Aster smiled and said, how could your highness take advantage of people's danger and take in refugees? Your highness is doing this for the country and the people. Xiaoming glared at Aster. Don't speak slanderous words of King Yong now. Whether our fiefs can deal with this locust plague is still unclear. Let's care about our own affairs first. Aster stuck out her tongue and responded, yes. Chapter 313 King Qi Who Eats Locusts. Zhu Wuliu is leading the young villagers in the construction of the cement road in the West City. A young man suddenly stopped beside him. The sun was blocked, and Zhu Wuliu, who was squatting on the ground to level the concrete floor, raised his head and saw the young man's face. He suddenly laughed and said, Reporter Zhang, why are you here? The person in front of Zhu Wuliu was a reporter from a newspaper office who often went to Zhujia village to read newspapers. Seeing Zhu Wuliu smiling, Reporter Zhang said, you can still laugh. Today's newspaper published a sign of a locust plague and drought in Lizhao. His Highness personally published a measures to prevent a locust plague. Don't go back and think about which one you can do. What? Locust plague? Zhu Wuliu was stunned. What the hell is going on? Reporter Zhang then explained the contents of the newspaper, and Zhu Wuliu gradually became clear. Now that the spring plowing has just begun, there are still preventive measures according to the statement in the newspaper. I'm going to buy ducks right now. Zhu Wuliu quit his work, got up and ran. Other young people followed closely and ran to Dongshi, because there are often people selling ducks in Dongshi. Reporter Zhang looked at Zhu Wuliu and sighed. With so many people in Qingzhou, how could those ducks in Dongshi be possible? At the same time, the news of the prevention of locust plague gradually spread among the people under the promotion of the government office. For a time, it was difficult to find a duck in Qingzhou. When foreign businessmen in Qingzhou saw that ducks became a hot commodity in Qingzhou, they immediately paid attention, but soon a law prohibiting the sale of ducks at high prices and huge profits dispelled them. Raised the idea tenfold. However, the law also gave them some profit margins, and many businessmen decided to buy ducks from other places and sell them to Qingzhou. His Royal Highness, even if Li Keihun buys chickens and ducks in large quantities, so many people in the 6 states will not be able to help. Since they are all eaten, the lower official suggests that it is better to eat them. Now it should be emphasized that people should catch locust larvae and eat them, which is much faster than chickens and ducks. Already after Xiaoming said that the locusts could be eaten, Pang Yukin immediately organized officials to go down to the fields to catch some locust larvae. Looking at the locusts cooked in the clay pot at this time, Xiaoming had a cold sweat on his back. He said, how are you feeling now? It has been 2 hours since Xiaoguan ate it. Everything is normal, but the taste is a little weird. Pang Yukin licked his lips and recalled the smell of locusts. Xiaoming has a black line. This time, his work seems to have failed. He said, actually, fried locusts are more delicious, crispy and chicken-flavored. Eat it fried? Pang Yukin's face turned green, wondering why he didn't say it earlier. Xiaoming nodded. The newspaper has just been sent out. This is just to inform the people of the news in advance, but the people must have doubts about the locusts being able to eat it this time. He said, it's fried. In this way, you can convene people to go to the field to catch some locusts. The more the better. This king will set up a frying pan in Dongshi to wait for you, which will make you more comfortable than eating meat. Pang Yukin shook his head. He was completely defeated by King Qi, and he didn't speak. He directly organized people to catch the locusts. Xiaoming is not idle. This locust plague is a terrible thing. He doesn't dare to joke. He can't control Jizhao, but if he can keep the harvest of his fief, he can keep it robbery. Let the chef of the palace move all the iron pots of the palace to Dongshi, and bring the oil and salt to Dongshi. Xiaoming prepared to give a lesson to the people of his fief in Dongshi, telling them that locusts can also be eaten in order to prevent the plague of locusts. Eat less and eat more locusts. There was such a big commotion in Dongshi, and many people came to watch. In the afternoon, Pang Yukin brought a bag of locusts. His Royal Highness, the locusts are here. Pang Yukin still had dirt on his body, and he probably went down to the field to catch it. Xiaoming patted the dust on his body. It's hard work. This king will fry locusts for you to eat. Pang Yukin smiled and said, if that's the case, the lower official will be waiting. Xiaoming opened the bag at this time, and there were a lot of locusts in it. He poured all the locusts into the water and drowned them. After washing them, he fished out the locusts. Then, he poured oil into the pot, and when the oil pan was hot, he put the locusts in, and suddenly a crackling burst out with the aroma of meat, and then Xiaoming added salt. When the locust was brittle, he fished out the locust. Pang Changshi, this time you have to try it again. Xiaoming handed the locust to Pang Yukan. The thick fragrance wafted from the locust. Pang Yukan swallowed, then he picked up a locust and stuffed it into his mouth to chew immediately. His eyes lit up and he nodded frequently. Your Highness, this locust smells really good. Xiaoming also picked up one and ate it. It tasted better than the locusts he caught when he was a child. After all, the locusts here are pure natural and not polluted at all. The people around were stunned. Under the crowd's onlookers, King Qi and Pang Changshi actually ate the locusts like this. His Royal Highness, leave this plate to the next official. Pang Yukan was addicted to eating it, and he couldn't stop eating it, muttering, "Ayo, I'll have snacks when I go back tonight." Xiaoming laughed when he heard the words, and he said to the people around him, "This king has already published something that locusts can eat in this newspaper, but many people definitely don't believe it. Now this king and Pang Changshi are trying to eat it themselves. Everyone might as well try." As soon as his words fell, the people standing in the front row crowded over immediately and picked up the locusts and ate them. Some businessmen from other places couldn't help but scramble to eat. "Oh, it's delicious. It's better than chicken. I'll let the whole family come out to catch it when I go back. I've never eaten something so delicious." As they scrambled, many people shouted happily. Fan Zheng was standing on one side. He was copying the picture with a pen. He wanted to draw Xiaoming and Pang Yukan leading the people to prevent and control the locust plague and publish it in the newspaper. A bag of locusts all entered the stomachs of the people in the afternoon. The people who ate the locusts were very happy, and after they returned, everyone preached the delicacy of the locusts in the village. In order to further stimulate the people's desire to catch locusts, Xiaoming asked Li Keitun to buy locusts in Dongxi and use these locusts to feed the soldiers of the King's Hao army. He did not believe that the stomachs of the people of these 6 states could not eat the locusts. When Xiaoming was busy controlling the locusts, the production of the flintlock gun did not stop. After 500 craftsmen arrived at the equipment department, the production of this knife was much faster. All 200 drill presses were equipped with drill bits within a few days. At this time, the hydraulic drill press was fully activated. Half a month later, the military workshop sent the first batch of 500 flintlock guns to Xiaoming. Chapter 314, Arranging the Flintlock. P.S. There is one more chapter, and it will arrive around 11 o'clock. King's Hao barracks. It was lunchtime, and the King's Hao soldiers were sitting neatly in the cafeteria eating. Since the reform of the King's Hao army, the King's Hao camp has a special canteen. After recruiting logistics soldiers, the King's Hao soldiers will be responsible for their meals. Oh, it's fried locusts again. I can't get enough of it no matter what. Lu Fei sat down on the chair, took a bite of the steamed bun, and went to pick up the fried locusts. Although the conditions in King's Hao are much better now, the soldiers of the King's Hao army mainly eat steamed buns, cakes and other staple foods. Usually, it is not bad to have 2 or 3 vegetables to eat, not to mention meat. After all, 20,000 mouths are not enough. So easy to feed. However, after Li Keitun brought a fried locust dish, the King's Hao army finally could have a good meal every now and then. Our Highness is really talented. Lu Fei, how did your Highness know that this locust can eat like this? Hey, it's really impressive to see you every 3 days. Luo Xin sighed while eating the fried locust. Niu Ben shook his head. This time he felt a little ashamed. When he was in the barracks, he always ate and lived with the soldiers, and this was also a requirement for the generals. He thought he was already enjoying himself with the people, but he didn't expect Xiaoming to go deeper into the people than him this time. I personally fried locusts in Dongxi for the people to eat. Now this has become a good story in the mouths of the people. While everyone was eating, suddenly a guard from the main camp came to report, "Commander, your Highness is here." Hearing this, Niu Ben quickly took a few bites, as did Lu Fei, and Luo Xin hurriedly grabbed a few bites of rice and walked outside the camp. It must be the first batch of flintlock guns, Lu Fei said excitedly. Luo Xin was a little jealous. This Lu Fei was about to get new equipment. He muttered, "No matter how powerful the flintlock gun is, it's still not as good as the gun Ba." Lu Fei gave Luo Xin a blank look. When the 3 arrived outside the camp, they saw a number of carriages followed by Xiaoming, and the carriages were loaded with boxes one after another. His Royal Highness, has the flintlock gun arrived? Niu Ben asked first. He was even more anxious than Lu Fei, waiting for the flintlock gun to be installed because Xiaoming said that this flintlock gun is a weapon against the barbarians. 500, this is the first batch. The military workshop said that it can provide 2,000 flintlock guns next month. It is estimated that the King's Hao army will be able to replace them with flintlock guns in a year. Xiao Ming said with a smile, "Hey, great, Your Highness, there is no problem with the discipline of the King's Hao army, and there is no problem with the battle formation. The soldiers only need to learn to operate the flintlock gun." Lu Fei laughed. Xiao Ming nodded, "Captain Liu, these 500 flintlock guns should be equipped with a vanguard battalion. After the soldiers have eaten, let the vanguard battalion gather. This king will demonstrate how to operate the flintlock guns. His Royal Highness, the last general you taught in the military workshop will be in the city, so don't bother Your Highness." Lu Fei was eager to try, and wanted to show off in front of the soldiers. Xiao Ming smiled and said, "That's not good. Last time it was just a test shot. This king just randomly put ammunition in it. This time it is a regular training, so I can't follow." The last time Niu Ben and Lu Fei looked at each other, and their faces turned red. They even boasted to the soldiers, and it turned out that it was a non-standard order. The 500 brand new flintlock guns were all unloaded, and the soldiers moved the muskets to the school grounds. At this time, all the soldiers of the vanguard battalion gathered at the school grounds. They all learned that they were going to use a brand new weapon today, and their faces flushed with excitement. The whole box of flintlock guns was moved in front of the soldiers. At this time, Xiao Ming was not in a hurry to send the flintlock guns, but prepared to explain to the soldiers. Just like in the military workshop last time, Xiao Ming gave Lu Fei and Niu Ben a flintlock gun. In front of you is the flintlock gun. In the future, the flintlock gun will become your weapon and your life on the battlefield. Therefore, after you get the flintlock gun, you must cherish the gun in your hands, because if you can't survive on the battlefield, you can only rely on them. And now, I will explain to you the structure of the flintlock gun and their function. Facing the soldiers, Xiao Ming explained every structure on the flintlock gun and introduced its function. The soldiers were attentive one by one. For fear of missing a word after the explanation, Xiao Ming turned his side to the soldier. This time, he demonstrated the normal operation of flintlock guns. First, Xiao Ming picked up the flintlock gun and tilted it at a 45-degree angle to reload it. Then he said, "Pay attention to my actions. First pull the lock, open the lid of the medicine pool, then take out the bullet, bite it open, and pour the gunpowder into it. The gunpowder pool, close the lid of the powder pool, then pour the gunpowder in the remaining paper shell into the barrel, and insert the bullet into the barrel with the paper shell. The bar is inserted into the barrel to ram the ammunition back and forth." After this action was over, Xiao Ming continued, "After loading the ammunition, put the slats back, raise the flintlock pistol over your shoulder, and wait for the order to shoot. At this time, Lu Fei and Niu Ben both posed in the order that Xiao Ming said. At this time, Xiao Ming said, "Fire!" Boom! 2 shots were fired, accompanied by a burst of white smoke. The soldiers of the vanguard battalion were all stunned, and the loud sound of the musket was enough to intimidate people. "Hey, how's it going? This flintlock gun is powerful, let me tell you." 80 meters away, a shot pierced through plate armor, and then the barbarians won't be afraid of them wearing armor. Lu Fei said excitedly. When Luo Xin saw the musket, he was a little jealous and said, "Your Highness, should our artillery also be equipped with flintlock guns, or who will protect us on the battlefield?" "Don't worry about this, Captain Luo, I will send a few people to protect you. But you listen to me, you have to fight wherever you want." Lu Fei held a flintlock gun, a kind of "I don't care who I am." Luo Xin answered him with a disdainful look. Xiao Ming ignored the bickering between the two, but said to Niu Ben, "Captain Liu, send this flintlock gun down." Niu Ben nodded and said to the soldiers, "Come in line and lead them one by one. Don't move around when you get the flintlock gun, and all obey the command." "Yes." The soldiers shouted. The 500 people of the pioneer battalion were all equipped with flintlock guns. The soldiers stood upright one by one with their flintlock guns standing on the ground. The 500 people gathered together and looked very mighty. Looking at the King's Hao army, who looked like a modern army, Xiao Ming suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of security in his heart, and then he shouted, "Stand tighter and follow my orders." After saying this, Xiao Ming, Niu Ben and the others stood beside the soldiers. Then Xiao Ming asked the soldiers to stand in a column. After everyone stood up, he made a series of orders and finally shouted, "Fire!" Chapter 315 Discipline and Training. White smoke shrouded the school grounds of the King's Hao camp, and the 500 pioneer battalion soldiers took turns shooting here. The first firearm battalion of King's Hao army was officially born, and more King's Hao army soldiers will be converted into flintlock troops. Now that you understand the structure of a flintlock, and how to use it to kill people, But this is just the beginning. Remember that you are one, then, now, and ever, and you will accept more strict training and stricter discipline, because only in this way can the weapons in your hands lead you to the ultimate victory. Got it? At this moment, Xiao Ming shouted loudly. Understood. The soldiers of the Pioneer Battalion answered Xiao Ming in a loud voice, nodding his head. Xiao Ming said to Lu Fei, Niu Ben, Luo Xin and other generals, from now on, you will accept regular tactical skills, which will allow you to know how to command an army with a flintlock gun. At this moment, Xiao Ming was the top general of King Zhao, and Niu Ben and others gave Xiao Ming a military salute and said yes. The first batch of flintlock guns were handed over to the Pioneer Battalion in King Zhao. The next problem faced by the King Zhao army was strict training and discipline. The discipline of this training is reflected in the battlefield performance that no matter what kind of attack it is subjected to, it will not self-destruct. Formation. A comrade in arms fell down beside him, and he was still able to reload the bullets calmly, instead of nervously forgetting that he had stuffed a few bullets in the barrel. Only with this level of training can this army equipped with flintlock guns be able to face the charge of the barbarian cavalry on the battlefield and still maintain its formation, as immobile as a mountain, and as aggression as fire. In this case, Governor Niu arranged the time for the generals to go to Bowen College. This king has prepared a school for you, and you will see even more magical things in the school. Yes, Your Highness. Niu Ben looked serious, nodding his head. Xiao Ming gave instructions on how to use the 500 flintlock guns. Although the 500 flintlock guns were given to the Pioneer Battalion, it did not mean that the Pioneer Battalion would monopolize this batch of flintlock guns, because for Xiao Ming, he couldn't wait for the equipment to arrive before training other soldiers, so the 500 flintlock guns had to be trained in turn for other soldiers to master the order of loading ammunition and shooting at the same time. The King Zhao army will train musket formations at the same time, including small columns, small horizontal teams, how to quickly turn small columns into large columns on the battlefield, and from large columns to small columns and small horizontal teams. Of course, the most important thing is to deal with the hollow phalanx of the cavalry masters. In the future battlefield, this is also the best array to prevent the barbarian cavalry from breaking the formation. After all, this array has withstood the test of countless wars throughout history. After explaining the next training content of the King Zhao army, Xiao Ming left the barracks. On the way back to King Zhao City, he saw many people catching locusts. Such a scene made Xiao Ming smile knowingly, but Xiao Ming couldn't laugh when he thought that the land in King Zhao was still dry. At this time, he thought of Yu Yun. If it could bring back corn and potatoes even in arid land, he would not be hungry anymore. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to Yu Yun's early return. The icy water slapped against the bullet-riddled hull of the Galen. In the distance, a battleship with the flag of Great Britain was slowly sinking, and flames, blood, and the bodies of hundreds of British people were floating on the sea. At the rear of the Galen, two British battleships clinched the Galen, which was flying the pirate flag. Two third-class sailing warships with twice as many guns as the Yuan Galen, enough to fire again in an instant. The fifth-class sailing battleship was sunk just when Xiao Ming was worried about Yu Yun and his party. Yu Yun had just finished a naval battle and was preparing to return because he did not believe Wilson. Yu Yun did not let him ashore when he sent Wilson to the Indian dock, but asked the people at the dock to notify the local garrison to bring the corn, peanuts and potatoes they needed so that they could return Wilson. After he expressed this request, Yu Yun quickly got a reply, and the British were willing to exchange these worthless things in their eyes for Wilson. Yu Yun was surprised by this unexpected success, but he didn't let his guard down. When the British were about to fill the cabins of the three ships, Yu Yun wanted to release Wilson and leave smoothly. When he suddenly saw the British battleship slowly driving out from the pier, it was only now that he understood that this was just a plan by the British to delay their troops. They seemed to care more about the three Galen ships in King Zhao than Wilson. When a battleship left the harbor, Yu Yun immediately gave an order to fire, and at the same time, the British battleships fired at the same time. Before the salvo, the three Galen ships turned again to fire a second salvo on the battleship. The battleship was sunk under the fire of the three Galen ships, while the other two battleships again set out from the harbor to attempt to double-team them. The firepower of a battleship had already severely damaged two of the King Zhao Galen ships, and Yu Yun knew very well what the consequences would be if the battle continued. He decisively chose to escape. After all, their goal had been achieved and they had obtained what they wanted. Wilson, is this your English hospitality? Yu Yun's eyes were red. In this battle, 1,000 enemies were injured and 800 were injured, but there were more than 30 crew casualties on his ship. He did not know the casualties on the other two ships. Moreover, although the ship has not sunk, But the initiative is extremely serious. He needs to find a place to repair the ship to continue sailing. The icy blade rested on Wilson's neck, and Wilson fell into an ice cave. He hurriedly explained to the translator, "It's not my fault. As long as the British see this Galen ship, they will definitely ask for a reason. I won't let you go." Yu Yun glanced at the battleship behind him. If this continued, they would definitely be caught up because one of the masts on the ship was broken. "Even if you die, you will be buried with you." The knife in Yu Yun's hand tightened. Wilson turned pale with fright. He hurriedly said, "Don't kill me. I know there is a place where only ships like you can pass. Battleships can't get through. As long as you get there, I promise you, and they will not chase after you." "Captain, what to do? Can you still trust him?" Yu Yun hesitated. He looked at the battleship that was chasing after him and said, "It doesn't matter if we die, but His Highness's entrustment is all over. Forget it, trust him again. It's a big deal that we all die together." Chapter 316 Sand Table Deduction. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. On the King's House school grounds, 500 Pioneer Battalion soldiers were marching forward in a column. The soldiers held their flintlock guns on their shoulders, and stepped on the drums to their destination step by step. Zhu Siwu stood on one side of the column, also marching with the Vanguard Battalion on the drumbeat. This kind of formation training began 3 days ago after the Pioneer Battalion was equipped with flintlock guns. At the beginning of the march, the officers carried slogans, but 2 days later, 2 small drums were sent to the barracks. Niu Ben randomly ordered 2 soldiers from the Pioneer Battalion to be specially responsible for drumming because it is a line operation. In future wars, it will be difficult for the army to step in step without a unified voice, and the role of the drum sound will be reflected in time. And when Zhu Wuliu asked why, Niu Ben answered him like this. It is said that this was what His Highness said at the Army Academy of Bowen College, and that this drum was also made by His Highness. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly saw the Q walking crookedly. He immediately picked up the stick and walked over, facing the 3 soldiers who were walking crookedly, each with a stick being slapped hard on the buttocks. The 3 soldiers kept baring their teeth in pain, and immediately readjusted their pace and merged into the queue. Turning back, Zhu Siwu stared closely at the queue of soldiers again. Although he did not understand the purpose of such a slow and rhythmic march, he believed that all decisions made by His Highness were correct. The only thing he was looking forward to was when it was their turn to study at Bowen Academy. While he was thinking about it, Niu Ben, Luo Xin, Lu Fei, Xian Guangai, Di Ying, Bai Mu, Zhao Gong and others were receiving a new war teaching at Bowen College. After Niu Ben took over the King's Hao army, he quickly promoted several outstanding captains from the Kokun captains and King's Hao, and selected some Kokun captains from among the excellent centurions. After all, the current King's Hao army has expanded to 20,000 people, not the thousands of people in Lu Fei's time. Without enough generals, it is impossible to effectively command soldiers in the war. Xiao Ming has reviewed all those promoted by Niu Ben, and he is very satisfied with Niu Ben's choice because this list coincided with what he thought. Niu Ben had no selfishness. "Your Highness, what is this?" At this time, there was a huge sand table 6 meters long and wide on the Army Academy. The content on the sand table was the terrain from Bing's Hao, Jiz Hao, Kang's Hao to the land occupied by the barbarians, and the terrain marked the number of barbarian troops in front of him that he could detect in the first 2 days of teaching. Xiao Ming mainly reduced some basic training knowledge of the musket team, and let Niu run back to implement it on the battlefield. The array of the musket team is the most important. After all, the flintlock does not rely on accuracy, but on the density and continuity of bullets on one surface. This thing is called a sand table, and it is used for battle deductions. You have some wood carvings by your hand, and these wood carvings represent the King's Hao army and the barbarians. Niu Ben picked up a wooden sculpture, which was the image of a soldier carrying a flintlock gun, only the size of a finger. This is an artilleryman. Luo Xin picked up an artilleryman's wooden sculpture and played with it. Lu Fei was not idle either. He picked up the wood carvings of 2 cavalrymen and collided. The shapes of the 2 cavalrymen were barbarian cavalry and King's Hao cavalry. Niu Ben glanced at the sand table, then looked at the wood carvings, and quickly understood the usage of these wood carvings. He picked up a wooden sculpture of an artillery soldier and placed it in the position of Kang's Hao city, and took a wooden sculpture of a barbarian cavalry and placed it in the place of the Chagatai silver tent of the Blood Wolf tribe. The other captain suddenly froze, showing excited expressions. It has to be said that Niu Ben is a natural general, and he has a very quick understanding of the reform of the army. Xiao Ming said, "You can probably understand Niu Dudu's demonstration. This sand table is just a more specific map. Today we are in the sand table. Let's deduce how to drive the barbarians out of Yaoziao after a pause. At the same time, on the sand table, this king will also demonstrate a musket formation to deal with cavalry. You must keep in mind that when you go back, focus on training soldiers how to quickly form this hollow phalanx. Everyone nodded when they heard the words, and Niu Ben said first, Your Highness, the cavalry is indispensable to defeat the barbarians in Yaoziao. Lei Ming has gained a lot on the battlefield during this period of time, and now the number of Guanning cavalry has risen to 6,000 people. From the point of view of the last general, although the musket team has the range and power to fight the barbarians outside Kangzhou City, it is still difficult to chase down the scattered barbarian cavalry without cavalry. Kingzhou cavalry trains together. After all, if it is wartime, the scattered Guanning cavalry will suffer. What Du Niu said makes sense. Now not only the musket team needs to be trained, but the cavalry must also be trained strictly. They cooperate with each other on the battlefield. To defeat the barbarians, they must rely on the cavalry to pursue them. Xiao Ming said, If so, should the cavalry also be equipped with flintlock spears? Asked Qi Guanggai, who was the cavalry general. Xiao Ming shook his head. Yes, you are also equipped with flintlock guns, but unlike the musket team, you are equipped with short-barreled muskets, because you can't operate long-barreled flintlock guns right away, and your plate armor will also be eliminated. Take off the plate armor? Qi Guanggai was very excited to hear that he could be equipped with a musket, but Xiao Ming's next sentence shocked him. He argued, Your Highness, how can our cavalry resist the arrows of the barbarians when we take off the plate armor? Xiao Ming pondered for a while, and said, The reason why the plate armor is eliminated is that the flexibility of the plate armor is too low to mount a horse, but the elimination of plate armor does not mean that you have no armor. In the future, you will be equipped with cuirass, sabers, and become cuirassiers. Xiao Ming actually had his own ideas for cultivating his cavalry in this direction on the battlefield of the 18th century. The cuirassiers were very active for a while, and Napoleon's restoration of the cuirassiers in the 18th century also proved that the cuirassiers had a good defense on the battlefield and a higher survival rate facing the arrows of barbarians. The cuirassiers with helmets and cuirass have a good defense, and their flexibility and mobility are also greatly improved. They are more than enough to chase and clean the battlefield. However, the only drawback is that the short-barreled musket, like the three-eyed musket, is only 2 shots in front of the battle and cannot be used continuously. However, since there is a labor-saving musket, it is unnecessary to use it in regular combat, and it may scare the barbarians' war horses. For the pulley crossbow, it was originally used by Guanning's iron cavalry to fight the autumn wind, and it was used for sneak attacks. In response to this question, Xiao Ming explained to Qi Guanggai, and then Qi Guanggai nodded slowly. Niu Ben said with a smile, His Royal Highness said, but no matter what kind of cavalry, discipline and training are the real weapons. Qi Guanggai, you can't rely too much on weapons. Chapter 317 Lu Tongyan number 039, S Masterpiece. Yes, Governor, Qi Guanggai said loudly. Xiao Ming and Niu Ben looked at each other, and then he started talking about the hollow square and the musket formation. This musket formation is a powerful weapon for restraining cavalry in later generations, a formation of experience summed up in countless wars, putting a hollow phalanx on the grassland, relying on a 360-degree shooting without dead ends. The barbarians are restrained by the hollow phalanx whether they are flanking, attacking from the front, or taking the back road. Holding the wooden sculpture of the musketeers, Xiao Ming placed a hollow square formation on the sand table, and at the same time taught Niu Ben and the generals the formation of the master group hollow square and the small hollow squares that cooperated with each other one by one. As for the cavalry, he only explained to Qi Guanggai one sentence, that is, no matter what the situation is, the cavalry can be arranged in a dense formation to charge all morning. Xiao Ming was talking about the use of the musket formation. At the same time, he and Niu Ben and other generals played the role of the barbarians and the musket team in a small battle game to test their use of the musket formation. Finally, he talked about some emergencies that may occur on the battlefield in the school, such as the use of tarpaulin to cover the bolt parts in the rain. After talking all morning, Xiao Ming's mouth was dry. There is no way to be really tired, because these days he not only has to give Niu Ben lectures, but he also has to participate in the chemistry, physics, mathematics and other courses. Your Highness, we are going back at the end of the course. Niu Ben and a group of generals prepared to leave. They would continue to review these contents in the barracks. Wait, take this textbook back. I will teach you every day, but I can't come here. This textbook was written by this king. You can take it back and study it by yourself. Self-study is the only way. Xiao Ming said with a smile. The reason for this, Xiao Ming, is not to be lazy, but to exert one's subjective initiative. There are many people who are self-taught in modern times. There is no need for him to come to a modern cramming teaching. He understands it himself. Therefore, whether it was chemistry, physics or mathematics, Xiao Ming tried his best to ask them to be able to learn by themselves, and he chose a class to explain them when they didn't know how to put together problems. This Bowen Academy is equivalent to a comprehensive school. If Xiao Ming is all alone, he will die of exhaustion. After sending Niu Ben and others away, Xiao Ming did not return to the palace, but wandered around the Bowen Academy. Now Bowen College is divided into 8 departments: the School of Government Affairs, the School of Mathematics, the School of Chemistry, the School of Physics, the School of Minerals, the School of Medicine, the Naval Academy, and the Army Academy. Among them, the School of Mathematics has 1 school for students, the School of Chemistry has 1 or 2 schools, 2 schools for Physics, 1 school for Minerals, 3 schools for the Medical School, 1 for the Navy, 2 for the Army, and Infantry and Artillery. There are a total of 3,000 people in all the colleges, which is equivalent to the size of the middle school. Among them, there are students who are not permanent residents, such as generals such as Niu Ben. At the same time, the college sometimes offers some courses temporarily, such as agricultural knowledge, engineering knowledge, water conservancy knowledge, and newspapers sometimes need some courses. All in all, there are also many courses. However, since Xiao Ming could organize and distribute the textbooks of each department, he felt a lot more relaxed, and the students of the academy gradually formed an atmosphere of self-study and discussion. Walking on the concrete road of Bowen College, we were approaching, and students holding textbooks greeted Xiao Ming from time to time. Xiao Ming returned the salute one by one. Here, he is the dean of the academy. Looking at the quaint school building, Xiao Ming showed a smile, and his heart was full of a sense of accomplishment. Now that the construction of Bowen College has ended, the entire college is huge now. Many schools are vacant, and these schools are prepared to cultivate more talents. As long as the 3,000 people in the college successfully graduate, they will become the backbone of Bowen College, responsible for cultivating generations of scientific talents. After walking inside for a while, Xiao Ming arrived at the cafeteria of Bowen College. Similar to the cafeteria of the modern college, the area of this era is very large, with long tables and benches, and many students are eating in it at this time in order to let the students study with peace of mind. Food and housing in Bowen College are free, but because the fief is not rich now, the food is also rough. But even so, many poor students are also very barbarians. After all, Xiao Ming's rough rice is big white steamed buns and rice boom. During lunchtime, the cafeteria was very lively. Xiao Ming was hesitating whether to go in and join in the fun for a meal when suddenly an explosion sounded. Ha ha ha. The gang of people in the School of Chemistry don't know what they are doing, and the laboratory has exploded again. Many students in the cafeteria looked in the direction of the chemistry laboratory, shook their heads and continued to eat, seeming to be very accustomed to this kind of thing. Xiao Ming looked in the direction of the chemical laboratory. Ever since he asked Lu Tong and his group to use the knowledge they have learned to build a primary chemical industry, Lu Tong and others have been trying to complete the most basic 3 acids and 2 bases. Now the 2 bases have been prepared, along with sulfuric acid, leaving only nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. There was such a big noise in the laboratory and he didn't know what he was doing. He took back his steps towards the cafeteria and went to the laboratory. At the door of the laboratory, Xiao Ming saw Lu Tong and others standing outside, covering their noses with wet towels. Seeing this, Xiao Ming asked, "What happened to you?" At this time, Lu Tong hurried over to stop Xiao Ming from approaching the chemical laboratory. He said, "Your Highness, don't go inside, it's poisonous." "Poisonous? What are you doing?" Xiao Ming looked funny at this time. Lu Tong said, "Your Highness, we have prepared white phosphorus," but a student did not notice that he mixed a little sulfur powder with white phosphorus and the test tube exploded. Xiao Ming was stunned when he heard the words, and said in surprise, "Have you prepared white phosphorus?" "Yes, Your Highness, you see my whole body smells of urine. We have been dealing with urine these days in order to prepare white phosphorus." Xiao Ming laughed out loud. And he would not go to the explosion. He said, "Tell me, how did you prepare it?" Lu Tong said, "Your Highness, this is the method in your textbook. We collected a lot of urine, evaporated the urine into urine residue, and then mixed and heated the urine residue with sand, charcoal, and rice, and burned it out. The gas passes into the cold water, and the white phosphorus comes out." After a pause, Lu Tong said, We were going to heat white phosphorus to get red phosphorus, but we didn't expect an explosion. Nodding with satisfaction, Xiao Ming patted Lu Tong on the shoulder and said, Lu Tong, you did a good job. This king didn't see you wrong. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Incentive. P.S. Yesterday, the sixth was even more damaging. After all, he is an old man and has limited energy. I have only written 3 chapters tonight, but the snail will not break his promise. Tonight, 1 chapter will be added, and tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. 5 watch at a time. I hope everyone will forgive me. Outside the chemistry laboratory, a group of students from the chemistry college were still outside and dared not go in. After all, the knowledge they got from the book clearly stated that burning white phosphorus was poisonous, so after the explosion, everyone ran out. After being complimented by Xiao Ming for a while, Lu Tong couldn't keep his mouth shut. He said, His Royal Highness has compiled the textbook more carefully, otherwise we won't be able to prepare white phosphorus. You are humble, but the knowledge in this book is dead, and it is true that you can use it to learn and use it. This white phosphorus is prepared by you independently. This king is very happy, and I hope that you can independently prepare more in the future. Chemicals, improve the chemical industry in Qingzhou. Xiao Ming said with anticipation when he let go. He was worried that Lu Tong and others would not be able to conduct chemical experiments independently, but now he is finally relieved. As long as they have a heart for knowledge, the students of these chemistry classes can explore independently. Don't worry, Your Highness, our food, clothing, housing, and transportation are all given by His Highness. If it weren't for His Highness, we would still be slaves on the grasslands. For His Highness's expectations, we would go through fire and water, and we will do whatever we want. Lu Tong bowed. Xiao Ming helped Lu Tong up and said, But hard work is a good thing, and you should also pay attention to safety. You are my king's treasure, and you will be very distressed if you lose me. Hey. Xiao Ming said. Lu Tong suddenly felt embarrassed. Then he said as if taking credit, By the way, Your Highness, I suddenly thought of a new type of shell these days. New type of shells? Xiao Ming asked interestingly, When did you understand the shells of artillery, Your Highness? This is not an ordinary cannonball, but a kind of cannonball that I thought of based on my chemical knowledge. This cannonball is a lime bullet. Hearing this, Xiao Ming admired Lu Tong more and more. This lime bomb was one of the 18th and 19th century artillery shells, and it could be said to be a chemical weapon. Go ahead. Xiao Ming wanted to continue to test Lu Tong's current ability. Lu Tong said, His Royal Highness, if this lime gets into people's eyes, it will heat up and stab people's eyes. Soldiers also use this method when attacking a city. If this lime is used to make artillery shells, it can be used to burn people's eyes from a long distance. The eyes of the enemy make them incapacitated. After a pause, Lu Tong continued, and this lime can't be washed with water if it gets into the eyes, it can only be washed with oil. Where did the barbarians get the vegetable oil on the grassland? They can't do anything about this lime bomb. Well, what you said is so right. Xiao Ming smiled, but after a while, these students grew up very fast. Lu Tong, it seems that this king wants to praise you at Bowen College, and let you become role models for these students. His Royal Highness, this is unnecessary. These are taught by His Highness. Lu Tong said embarrassedly. This can't be done. This king must reward him. This is not for you, but also for the future Bowen Academy, so let's give a reward of 5,000 taels of silver. Xiao Ming said generously. For him, this is not a matter of money, but an opportunity to promote Bowen College to turn teaching into practical use. 5,000 taels is not much to him, but it represents his attitude. As long as he can contribute to Qingzhou, he will not be stingy with money. Talking about the reward, Xiao Ming said, Since you propose the concept of lime bombs, go to Chen Qi to discuss it. You two will work together to make lime bombs for this king. Yes, Your Highness. Lu Tong shouted happily. Xiao Ming nodded, looked at Lu Tong again, and left with Zhao Long and Zhao Hu. Lu Tong watched Xiao Ming disappear from his sight. At this time, he shouted excitedly. This was the first time Xiao Ming praised him so much. Now he finally felt that he could really do something for King Qi. Turning around, he looked at the students of the School of Chemistry and said, Did you all hear? Your Highness rewarded me with 5,000 taels of silver, but I, Lu Tong, did not take the credit alone. Everyone and I completed these experiments together. The 5,000 taels of silver are also yours, and when the time comes, we will divide it equally with everyone, and if we take the silver, we will work harder to serve His Highness." When the students heard the words, they were immediately excited. The money was enough for them to live a prosperous life. Who would be unable to live with the money here? Xiao Ming returned to the palace and immediately wrote a notice praising Lu Tong and the chemistry students. The announcement will be posted in the Bowen Academy for the entire Bowen Academy to see, stimulating the students to start competing with each other. After living in the Great Yu Kingdom for a while, he found an interesting problem, that is, the students in both the army and the academy lacked a kind of competitive spirit among each other. This makes Xiao Ming a little strange. In his opinion, this is an easy psychological trouble, so he is going to improve the atmosphere in Bowen College and the military in response to this problem, and let the students in Bowen College compete with each other in scientific research performances with achievements, criticism without achievements, stimulate their desire to compete. After the notice was written, Xiao Ming asked Zhao Long to take the notice to Bowen College and put it on the cafeteria of Bozu College, because this place is where every student must come. His Royal Highness is really generous. 5,000 taels of silver, and the gang of chemistry school eat meat every day. After the announcement was posted, many students gathered together. No way. Who asked Lu Tong to research so many things? 5,000 taels is worth it. At noon, we laughed at the explosion of the canteen of the School of Chemistry. Now it's fine. The explosion was 5,000 taels. The students gathered more and more, and many of the students who saw the announcement immediately became red-eyed. A voice shouted, from the School of Physics, "Why are you so cowardly? Look at the people from the School of Chemistry. What achievements have you achieved now?" "That's right, Your Royal Highness doesn't separate families. Now the people in the chemistry school are getting rich, and you haven't made a move outside the crowd." A group of students from the School of Physics passed by with angry expressions on their faces. This time, they were really embarrassed. Just as someone shouted just now, "There is no separation," and now they are completely compared. What's the hurry? Who said that there are no talented people in our School of Physics? Wait, we will not lose to those in the School of Chemistry. A person said in a clear voice, "Yo, isn't this Lin Wentao from the School of Physics? Don't talk about this big talk now, be careful to flick your tongue. A nerd who failed the imperial examination for 3 years, can you still make a splash in physics?" Someone laughed. Ha. Many people burst into laughter. Lin Wentao glanced at the student of the School of Political Affairs with contempt, and said, "Humph, Yank is aware of Hong Hu's ambition, huh? Let's wait and see." Chapter 319 Heavenly Disaster Reversal. In the afterglow of the dusk, Zhao Long's side face was flushed red by the red glow. After returning from Bowen College, he smiled and said to Xiao Ming, "Your Highness, many students of Bowen College said that they wanted to surpass Lu Tong's people under the agitation of the announcement. Well, these students do need some motivation. By the way, you can take this and post it in each academy tomorrow." These days, Zhao Long and Zhao Hu follow Xiao Ming every day. He is always an auditor outside the school. After a long time, he has learned a lot of words. He looked at the paper that King Qi handed over. On this paper are more detailed incentive measures, including scholarships, scientific and technological innovation awards, progress awards, extraordinary contribution awards, etc., and the exact list of rewards for these awards is listed behind these awards. What surprised him the most was the extraordinary contribution award, on which Xiao Ming wrote that a set of generals in Kingzhou city residence was worth 3,000 taels of gold. Put away the reward regulations, Zhao Long bowed and left. His heart couldn't stop beating. This regulation is not only for Bowen College, but also for the entire fief. As long as someone reports their scientific and technological achievements to the government itself will be assessed. If I can get the extraordinary contribution award, it would be enough to marry 10 wives. Thinking of such delicious food, his saliva was about to flow down. It's just that when I secretly fantasize in my heart, I suddenly recalled that King Qi looked at the sunset and seemed a little unhappy, and I don't know why. The sunset is very beautiful, especially under this pure sky. The sunset on the horizon is like the colorful colors in the glass ball, but in Xiao Ming's view, this kind of beauty is very dangerous, at least for his fief. As the saying goes, you don't go out in the morning, but the sunset travels thousands of miles, which means that it will rain in the morning, and it will be sunny again in the sunset. Now Kingzhou is basically a sunset, which means that Pang Yukin's prediction may come true. And Kingzhou may face drought this year. Since ancient times, the areas of Henan, Hebei, and Shandong have been the hardest hit areas by drought and locust plagues. Historically, there have been many chaotic incidents due to disasters in these three areas during the period of Kuomintang rule. A severe drought occurred in Henan from July 1942 to the spring of 1943, followed by a plague of locusts, which eventually led to a famine in Henan at that time. The famine spread all over the province, and countless people starved to death. Recalling the bloody files, Xiao Ming couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. At that time, the drought was at the time of the frontline fighting against Japan, which made the disaster worse, and now the Blood Wolf tribe is eyeing, if it is Bing Zhao, the Jizhao generation will be in chaos due to drought and lack of food. At this time, the situation of the Great Yu Kingdom that he has just recovered will probably take a sharp turn. It's just that he is a human, not a god, and he can't do anything about this natural and man-made disaster, not to mention that Bing Zhao is the fief of King Liang, and Jizhao is the fief of King Yuan. He can't intervene, and he is unable to intervene. It is already God's blessing to be able to protect his fief from disaster. Now it's raining. No matter how beautiful the sunset is, it can't be eaten as a meal. Xiao Ming muttered to himself. Because of this incident, Xiao Ming went directly to the Chamber of Commerce the next day to personally supervise the purchase of grain. His Royal Highness, the lower official, has already explained that we need to exchange things for things and prepare to purchase a large amount of food. Knowing that Xiao Ming was for food, Li Keun hurriedly explained it's not enough. Let all the ships of the Chamber of Commerce go to the south of the Yangtze River to purchase food. The food in the north is never enough, so we can only start from the south. Xiao Ming pondered for a night and prepared to go to the south to buy grain reserves. Li Keun now knows why Xiao Ming wants to purchase food on a large scale. He knows the importance of this issue, and he suddenly said to Xiao Ming, His Royal Highness, there is someone in the Chamber of Commerce that you might want to meet. If he nods, the food in King's house should not be available. There will be problems. Who? Xiao Ming was startled. His Royal Highness, this Jiangnan is the richest in the world, but there is a Xiao family who is the richest in Jiangnan. Today, some people from the Xiao family have come to buy glass mirrors from the Chamber of Commerce, saying that they will visit His Highness later. In that case, why don't you meet Your Highness now, them Xiao's family? Xiao Ming frowned. Although he has produced a lot of goods since last year, the Xiao family has never been slow and does not seem to care about the profits of these goods. Can the Xiao family finally bear it now? After hesitating for a while, he said, If that's the case, let him come over. Li Keun nodded and went out immediately. After a while, he walked in with a young man in a white robe of silk and satin. Xiao's Hang Yang greets His Highness. Seeing Xiao Ming, the white-robed son was elegant and polite, neither humble nor arrogant. Xiao's Hang Yang, the concubine of the Xiao family, came out to see the king. It seems that the Xiao family has never paid attention to the king. Xiao Ming sat on the chair with a calm expression and a slightly dissatisfied tone. He deliberately tested this Xiao's Hang Yang. Xiao's Hang Yang set off from Linen 7 days ago and arrived in Kingzhou today. This time he was assigned by his family to come to Kingzhou. Hearing this, he said indifferently, It is said that His Highness is a dragon and a phoenix among people and a model of the Great Yu Kingdom. I didn't expect His Highness to divide people by descendants. Unfortunately, I thought His Highness was different. Bold. Your Highness is honorable. How can you criticize at will? If I knew this, the mirrors in this Chamber of Commerce will not be sold to you. Li Keun said angrily. Xiao Ming reached out and stopped Li Keun, who was about to continue scolding in Kingzhou. This king naturally does not distinguish between direct descendants and concubines, but among the clans of the Great Yu Kingdom, the direct descendant is often regarded as the respect, and the direct son must be used to show respect when sent to other places. Will the king be fooled? Xiao Ming sneered. Hearing this, Xiao's Hang Yang suffocated, and he continued, Your Highness is smart. It is not that the Xiao family despised His Highness, but my father heard that His Highness was wise, and the eldest brother was sick in bed, so he had to let him come. It's enough to tell the truth. Xiao Ming stood up and said, This king has never liked to go around in circles. Come on, what do you want when you come to Kingzhou this time? His Royal Highness speaks quickly. Since this is the case, Xiao will not hide it. Presumably His Highness knows that the Xiao family has been serving under the King of Chu. Xiao Ming nodded. Isn't it? Xiao's Hang Yang said, His Royal Highness, for a businessman, business has no borders. What businessmen pursue is only real money and silver, so please don't treat the Xiao family as the king's dog and horse. As soon as these words were said, Xiao Ming's brows furrowed, because such words should not be said by a businessman from the Great Yu Kingdom. This is the Great Yu Kingdom, so what are businessmen who are not powerful dogs and horses? That's right, this is true in the Great Yu Kingdom. It's just that His Highness is different. His Highness is going to build a country with business. Maybe he can create a free country for businessmen. Chapter 320, Painting a Pie. Ha ha ha! A burst of laughter spread from the office of the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Many businessmen in the Chamber of Commerce cast curious glances in the direction of the voice. This voice is familiar to many businessmen. It is clearly the voice of King Key, which makes them excited. For a while King Key rarely came to the Chamber of Commerce, so the office of the chairman was always empty, and only Li Keun was busy here, dealing with everything. Cao Zhengyang looked at Xiao Ming, who couldn't stop laughing in the office where the nameplate of the conference was hung. He was now beginning to wonder if he could complete the task his father had given him. Why is your highness laughing? Cao Zhengyang finally couldn't help it. Xiao Ming stopped to smile. This king is laughing because you are really brave. If the king of Chu knows that you are standing in front of this king and saying these words, your Cao family will only be destroyed in an instant. You really think that the world is rich? The king of Chu dare not touch you? Wrong. These wealth are only temporarily kept by you, and will eventually fall into the hands of the king of Chu. This pig will be killed when it gets fat. His Royal Highness is saying a lot of money, but it's just that His Highness looks down on the Cao family too much. For the Cao family, they never put their eggs in one box. If we don't go on, there will always be a place for the Cao family to stay, but the roots of the Cao family are in the Great Yu country after all. If there is a stable place, the Cao family is still willing to stay in the Great Yu country, Cao Zhengyang said loudly after a pause. Cao Zhengyang continued, His Royal Highness, looking at the Great Yu kingdom, the Cao family will naturally not say this to any prince. There is another reason why Cao came to King Zhao this time, and that is because of the Cao family. The merchant ship encountered His Highness's fleet at sea. I wonder if His Highness knows about Yu Yun. What? Xiao Ming stood up abruptly. With a dangerous aura on his body, Zhao Long and Zhao Hu felt Xiao Ming's anger, and immediately drew his sword and pointed at Cao Zhengyang, ready to cut Cao Zhengyang in front of him at any time. Your Highness is so excited. It seems that Yu Yun is indeed His Highness's person, but it is a pity that those 3 battleships were beaten into sieves. I am afraid that His Highness will lose no less than 1 million taels this time. Cao Zhengyang said slowly. Xiao Ming quickly calmed down. Yu Yun had not heard from him for 3 or 4 months. He had been worried all the time, but he did not expect that he would encounter an accident. In the end he asked lightly, what do you want to say? Cao Zhengyang had a serious look on his face, and bowed to Xiao Ming again, saying, Your Highness, the Cao family's caravan is helping Yu Yun to repair the damaged battleship, and His Royal Highness will be able to see his fleet in a month at the latest. This is the Cao family and His Royal Highness. The sincerity of cooperation. I don't know if His Highness is still satisfied. What do you Cao family want? Xiao Ming asked with a sneer. His Royal Highness's fleet has proved the strength of His Highness, and this is exactly what the Cao family needs. My father believes that His Royal Highness will give the Cao family a different future. This is what the Cao family wants. Of course, if His Royal Highness allows the Cao family to open a bank in King Zhao, the Cao family will be more willing. Cao Zhengyang said slowly. Politics is the exchange of interests. Xiao Ming is no longer Wuxiamen. Is this the condition of your Cao family? Yes, Your Highness. We have learned that His Highness is preparing to build a bank similar to a bank in King Zhao, but His Highness is currently short of money, and secondly, there are too few people who understand this business, and the progress has been very slow until now. To the Cao family, Mr. Cao promises that within 3 months, each state and county of His Royal Highness will establish a bank. Cao Zhengyang said. Xiao Ming hesitated. This Cao family is really a lion. This bank is the financial industry of later generations. Whoever does not know the key points of the financial industry in modern times will be fooled by Cao Zhengyang. If it is a native of the Great Yu Kingdom, but it was wrong for the Cao family to hide him. He finally understood why the Cao family was so anxious. It turned out that the fact that he was planning to build a bank made the Cao family feel the crisis. It's just that now Yu Yun and the fleet are in the hands of the Cao family. According to Cao Zhengyang, without their help, Yu Yun and the others would not be able to repair the battleship and return, and now they don't seem to tell the King of Chu about this. They are asking him for a price. If they don't have a suitable price, the Cao family may give up and stop trying to cooperate with him. Living in modern times, Xiao Ming is very aware of the power of capital. Now the Cao family is obviously beyond the scope of ordinary businessmen in the Great Yu Kingdom. In his opinion, the current CAO family is looking for a hotbed of capital. That's why he risked getting in touch with him after hesitating for a while. Xiao Ming said, "This king cannot give up King Xiao Bank, but this king will not prevent the CAO family bank from opening a bank in this king's fief. This is the king's bottom line. His Royal Highness is indeed a very shrewd person. His Highness's thoughts are the same as my father's guess." "Well, we agree." CAO's Heng Guiyang said. Xiao Ming snorted softly. This result was a win-win situation for both him and the CAO family. Originally, Xiao Ming wanted to monopolize the profits of the financial industry, but if he thought about it carefully in this era, it would not work. If he wanted to develop rapidly, he had to take advantage of capital to form his own interest group. Businessmen will only invest their money in themselves if they have a steady stream of profits from him. It was in this binding of interests that the East India Company of the West grew. So from now on, he will gradually build interest groups around him, and let these interest groups continue to provide himself with a capital of war. For this reason, he can't entangle whose fief these businessmen come from. As long as he can provide himself with materials and money, he can use these people. After all, in the business field, they use each other and stab each other. After CAO's Heng Guiyang agreed to his conditions, Xiao Ming changed his words again and proposed a bold plan. He said, "This king has a more profitable business. I wonder if you are interested. Your Highness, please speak." This king is going north to attack the barbarians and recover the lost land in Yaoxiao. You may have heard that your majesty has promised this king that the land will be owned by this king, but this king is lacking in materials and can't do anything. So he recently decided to ask the merchants we raise materials, according to how much they provide, and return them with profits from future wars. I wonder if your CAO family is interested. Profits from future wars? I don't know what those profits refer to. Land, barbarian livestock, horses, captives, trade routes to barbarians, etc. Xiao Ming began to draw a big cake. You think about how much land would be captured by this king in a place as big as the 16 prefectures of Yan'an. Once the barbarians are defeated, the barbarian slaves, barbarian livestock, and pastures are all huge wealth. As long as you give money, this king is willing to be the pioneer. CAO's Heng Guiyang was stunned. He thought, this king Qi really had a different response. Chapter 321 Interest Exchange. P.S. Tonight at the 3rd watch, tomorrow at the 6th watch. To make up for yesterday and today, the atmosphere in the office is a bit stagnant after being silent for a long time. CAO's Heng Guiyang said, His Royal Highness, our CAO family fully supports His Highness, but this matter is too big. CAO must go back and discuss it with my father up. Now it was Xiao Ming's turn to be surprised. He didn't expect CAO's Heng Guiyang to answer so happily. Today is the first time he has proposed this idea. This is just the prototype of the East India Company, a prototype of a company that uses capital as a driving force to plunder resources around the world. What he said just now was nothing but the idea of turning the attack on the barbarians into a gluttonous feast for merchants. Speaking of this, CAO's Heng Guiyang became more and more excited, and then he said bluntly, "It seems that my father sent CAO to come this time. It is said that His Highness said in the court that all the things he made came from a Western missionary. It seems that His Highness did not lie. To be honest, our CAO family is doing business with the Dutch." Xiao Ming's teacup in his hand shook, and his expression became solemn. "You mean Dutch?" "Yes, it's the Dutch. Isn't His Highness sending you on a long voyage this time to establish a trade route with the Westerners?" Turning his eyes, Xiao Ming said, "That's right, this is what this king has in mind. It's just that the King of Chu also knows about the Dutch." CAO's Heng Guiyang seemed surprised. He said, "Yes, the King of Chu has been in secret contact with the Dutch." At first, the Dutch thought that the King of Chu was the current sage. Later, they understood, and the King of Chu gave them the most favored nation treatment, and promised to only do business with the Dutch, and the Dutch give up. Xiao Ming nodded. Since CAO's Heng Guiyang knew about Western affairs, he didn't need to hide it when he learned that he once had a Western priest and teacher, because in his opinion, he must understand the Western world today. Speaking of this topic, this simple exchange of interests has changed its flavor. Xiao Ming said, "The King of Chu is so daring. He has been hiding from the court for so many years. Damn it, His Royal Highness, every vassal king has his own secrets. Doesn't His Highness also have them?" CAO's Heng Guiyang's eyes were bright. "Of course, what we businessmen pursue is always profit. Our CAO family has seen Western chambers of commerce, and they are following the footsteps of national wars to make a fortune. You know so much, so I won't say much about it. Since your CAO family wants to do business in this king's fief, There is one more thing I hope you can agree to. Xiao Ming did not expect that today's simple meeting with the Cao family would develop to this level. From this point of view, the Western powers outside the Great Yu Kingdom have already divided the sphere of influence all over the world, and the barbarians in the north have not yet been settled. Your Highness, please speak. The granaries of the Cao family are all over the Great Yu Kingdom, and there is a huge shortage of food in this king's fief, so this king wants to buy some food from the Cao family. Xiao Ming said, how much food does your highness need? Please give us the amount. 6 million stone grains. Xiao Ming said last year, he blackmailed millions of stone grains from King Wei, and with the addition of barter for business, these grains were enough to support the soldiers. But if they were on average, they would only be enough for 1 year. In this way, he is still 2 years short of reserves. He calculated that his fief needs 6 million stone grains a year, and he bought exactly the amount for 1 year. The rest he thinks of. Wei Cao's Hengayang's color changed slightly. These 6 million stones are not a small number. Your Highness is joking. Our Cao family is not the king of Wei, although the Cao family is rumored to be the richest man in the world, but its financial resources are far less than that of any vassal king. In my opinion, our Cao family can provide at most 500,000 shi of food, but now there is a gap between the Dutch and the King of Chu. The King of Chu is in need of a lot of artillery to build his fleet, and His Highness can exchange artillery with the King of Chu. Our Cao family is willing to promote this matter for His Highness in front of the King of Chu. Xiao Ming stared into Cao's Hengayang's eyes. The Cao family suddenly came and placed such a big bet on him, which he had never expected. Now he wants to help him like this. He doubts that the Cao family may be in some kind of predicament now, and this predicament is a life and death predicament. Otherwise, the Cao family would not be able to take such a big risk to contact him. Is it really as he thought, the King of Chu was going to kill this fat pig to feed himself? And the Cao family had a hunch in advance. However, if this is the case, the Cao family will definitely lose a lot. Even if they survive, they will not lose the name of the richest man. In taking advantage of this, he can also read the book of the King of Chu, scolding him for concealing things from the Dutch and deceiving the king. Thinking of this, he said, that's how it works. Your Highness is very polite. It is our Cao family's honor to serve His Highness. Cao's Hengayang was all smiles, and a stone fell to the ground in his heart. Meeting King Qi this time was really a dangerous move for the Cao family. Just a step forward is death, and a step back is also death. They are also forced to, just to survive. After talking about this, Xiao Ming said to Li Qian, Qian, you are responsible for entertaining these 2 days, so as not to lose the courtesy. Li Qian nodded. Xiao Ming's status was noble, and naturally he was Li Qian in charge of entertaining Cao's Hengayang. When the two left, Xiao Ming fell into contemplation. The visit of the Cao family this time is really beyond his expectations, although he is confident that the Cao family can't help but find him to do business sooner or later. It's just that he didn't expect to be in this situation. Remembering Cao's Hengayang's fake surprise when he revealed that the King of Chu and the Dutch were in contact, he became more and more sure that there was a problem between the Cao family and the King of Chu. As for why the Cao family chose this opportunity, it was naturally Yu Yun's fleet that gave him the capital to exchange interests with. A sneer, Xiao Ming stood up. He needed capital, but he also didn't believe in capital. Capital will help him expand his territory, but if he is not careful, it will kill him. Therefore, Xiao Ming has always been cautious about business, using its favorable side and beware of its sinister and bloody side. However, if the Cao family really provided logistics for their expedition against the barbarians, it would show that the Cao family really had a long-term vision. And they really should be wary. Thinking all the way, Xiao Ming went to the palace. On the way, he suddenly bumped into Pang Yukan. His Royal Highness, the lower official is going to the palace to find you. Pang Yukan was a little anxious. What's wrong? Pang Yukan said, Xiaoguan's friends in Jizhao sent 2 letters in a row, one of which mentioned that there had been civil unrest in King Yong's fief, and King Yong was sending troops to suppress and strictly block the news. This is not a good sign. Hearing this, Xiao Ming frowned. His worries are gradually becoming a reality. Chapter 322 Erosion. Chang'an, in the palace. Xiao Wangxun immediately summoned Fiji. After reading the memorial from King Zhao in the imperial study, the 2 ministers were silent for a long time. Your Majesty, I have also received some news about Jizhao. As King Qi said, Bingzhao and Jizhao did suffer from drought last year, but it still hasn't rained yet. Now, the people in the fiefdom of King Yong have no surplus food at home. Unspeakable. It's Bingzhao, Jizhao, and King Zhao again. If it weren't for the chaos in these 3 places decades ago, the imperial court would not have been hurt because of the rebellion. Now this natural disaster strikes again. What should this be? Xiao Wangxun said in his eyes. It's deeply worrying. He still remembered that he was the second prince of the Great Yu Kingdom at that time, and was ordered to conquer the rebellion in the three places. In order to quell the rebellion, the Forbidden Army fought bloody battles. During this period, there were countless wars, big and small. It took 3 years for the rebel leader Zhang Dong to be beheaded, but it was because of this rebellion that he took control of the military and won the battle for the throne in one fell swoop. Fiji looked at Xiao Wangxun. Now there is no other way but to allocate food for disaster relief, but there is not much food for the imperial court. It is when His Majesty issued a decree to raise food for all the vassal kings, especially the kings of Chu, Wei, and Shu, King Yan, King Runan and other vassal kings in wealthy places. That's the only way to do it, but I'm afraid there is little hope. Xiao Wangxun sighed. These vassal lords are very responsible. If they don't react, how could it be possible to raise food for disaster relief? He knew very well that in times of crisis, these vassal kings would only be wise to protect themselves. With a sigh, Xiao Wangxun said to Fiji, "You immediately draw up a decree and send it to the various kings." In addition, the king of Qi sent a method to restrain locusts. Although this method is a bit different, it is now a method. Fiji nodded. King Qi's solution was to eat locusts. This was indeed a weird idea, but it was better for the victims than starvation. Slowly exiting the imperial study, Fiji left the palace and went home directly. King Qi's fief had just improved in the past 2 years. He did not expect to encounter such a disaster. The real person was not as good as he wanted. Now he is worried about Xiao Ming's fate. Hope he can make it through this time. Thinking of this, he suddenly sighed. "Daddy, why are you sighing?" At this moment, a soft voice sounded, but Fei Yu'er and Xiao Huan came over. Fiji never hides some things from Fei Yu'er. He said, "The emperor just summoned me and said that there were signs of drought and locust plagues in Bingzhou, Jizhou, and Qingzhou. I am afraid that there will be civil unrest in these three places." Qingzhou? Fei Yu'er covered her mouth in surprise. Isn't it just that Qingzhou had a good weather last year? Among the three places, Qingzhou is the least affected, but Jizhou and Bingzhou were in chaos, and Qingzhou would not be better off. The chaotic people have always looted the rich and prosperous places. Fiji said with worry. Xiao Ahun exclaimed, wouldn't it be dangerous if the young lady married Qingzhou at this time?" Xiao Ahun can't talk nonsense. Now that the marriage contract has been decided, King Qi and I are one body, and we should share the same weal and woe. That's the reason why we only enjoy happiness and can't suffer losses. Fei Yu'er frowned. Fiji looked at Fei Yu'er with satisfaction. This is the daughter of the Fei family. The barbarians of King Qi are not afraid. How can they be afraid of some chaotic people? What the emperor is worried about is that the barbarians will take the opportunity to fight again. This King Yong and King Liang are not the kings of Qi. Fei Yu'er nodded slowly. This King Yong has a violent personality, is courageous, and has always been ignoring the advice of others. This is troublesome. Seemingly not wanting to talk about this nasty person, Fiji said, "Yu'er, I see that your complexion is ruddy these days, and your body seems to have recovered to be no different from ordinary people. In this case, you and Xiao Ahun can go out for a walk." "Thank you, Dad," Fei Yu'er said excitedly. Then Fiji told Fei Yu about the method of King Qi to control locusts, which made Fei Yu sigh again, and became more and more novel about Xiao Ming's strange thoughts. In Qingzhou, Xiao Ming stepped up the fiefdom's drought relief after learning of the civil unrest in Jizhou, until the sudden light rain in early May made Xiao Ming heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, Pang Yukin and many people in the fief were also relieved. At least it says a severe drought doesn't appear to be happening on land in the 6 states. Although it is raining, the disaster prevention and welding prevention must not be taken lightly. The construction of the reservoirs in the fields and the excavation of ditches should be accelerated to save the losses as much as possible. In the governor mansion, Xiao Ming gave orders to officials from the 6 states in order to avoid excessive losses. He personally supervised drought and disaster prevention. These days, Li Keihut sold a large number of chickens and ducks to the people for breeding. At the same time, Pang Yukin also went to the people to organize production teams in various prefectures and counties to fight drought. In the newspaper, Xiao Ming also issued an order for the whole people to fight drought. There is a light rain now, indicating that the disaster situation in Qingzhou will not be serious. Although the grain production will be reduced this season, the people's livelihood should not be questioned and the food he reserves is enough for the army to eat. However, the fire at the city gate has affected Shiyu, and he has been keeping the secret guards concerned about the situation in Yuanzhou. Now the imperial court has allocated food for disaster relief in response to the situation in Yuanzhou, and at the same time it has recruited food from other vassal kings. However, according to his understanding, as he expected, just like when he collected food and grass in the Battle of Kangzhou at that time, the decree of the imperial court did not play much effect. The vassal kings only gave 30,000 shi, and the other gave 50,000 shi to send to the court. They can't wait to see the court's jokes at this time, but this is not what Xiaoming hates the most, because according to the news from the secret guard, only 10% of the relief food was in the hands of the people, and 90% of the food was exploited by officials from Chang'an and Jizhou. Li Keiyun even bought Jizhou's relief food in the market. The officials of the Great Yu Kingdom are so rotten and overturned in an instant when he learned that there was disaster relief food among the food purchased by Li Keiyun. Pang Yukan sighed, leaving Xiaoming with a desolate back. In the next few days, Pang Yukan handled government affairs like crazy, and he was often seen in the field. Xiaoming was also shocked by this incident. He did not expect that the incident of officials exploiting disaster relief food in textbooks was actually happening now, and he also understood why the people would turn against each other during major disasters. With a bitter sigh, Xiaoming could only pin all his hopes on his own fiefdom. This decaying dynasty, like an old man with a turbulent age, began to smell of death after the last exchange of interests with the Cao family. The Cao family fulfilled their promise, and Yu Yun returned to Dengzhou with 3 Galen ships. Chapter 323, The Return of Yu Yun. P.S. There are 4 more nights, Your Highness, I'm back. Qi Wangfu, King's House civil and military officials gathered in the center of the main hall. Yu Yun and the remaining sailors suddenly knelt on the ground, weeping bitterly. Seeing this, Niu Ben and Lu Fei couldn't help but be moved. The more than 700 people who had set off have now returned to Kingzhou. There are only 231 people left in the navy, and 2/3 of the sailors died in the vast sea. Xiaoming walked in front of Yu Yun and helped the soldiers of the navy one by one. His eyes were warm. He knew that this move would be dangerous, but these sailors still had no hesitation. It is the soldiers who have the courage to sacrifice themselves that make his fiefs as stable as Mount Tai. Xiaoming believed in weapons, but what he believed most was his soldiers. Without their bravery and sacrifice, how could he sit in this main hall? Soldiers, it is this king who should salute. Thousands of words only turned into deep bow in Xiaoming's heart. Yu Yun and others' eyes were red, but their expressions were still determined. They roared in unison, "My honor is loyal. For His Highness, we are not afraid of death or sacrifice, just so that one day His Highness can no longer let the people of the 6 states no longer suffer. Bullying by outsiders, Yu Yun, you are strong men, I admire." Lu Fei shouted, "We admire." The other generals shouted at the same time. At this moment, Yu Yun finally could not hold back the tears in his eyes. His mother died at the hands of Japanese pirates, and his crew was attacked by the British fleet at sea. After that, they narrowly escaped the pursuit of the British fleet under the leadership of Wilson. Unexpectedly, I encountered the Dutch fleet when crossing the Ryukyu. At this time, they had been severely damaged and had almost no ability to fight back. With the intention of death, they sank a Dutch battleship, but their ship could no longer sail, and could only be stranded on an uninhabited island. If they hadn't encountered the Cao family's fleet, they probably wouldn't have returned. Family hatred and hatred for the country. He carried too much by himself. Xiaoming patted Yu Yun's shoulder heavily, and he said, "This king knows that you are suffering. The soldiers who died will not die in vain. This king will recover it tenfold, and the people of the Battle of Kangzhou will not die either. This king will also get it back 10 times and 100 times, to expedition the barbarians in the north, and conquer the Japanese country in the east to seize the maritime trade routes. This is the strategy of Kingzhou in the next few years. Northern expedition of barbarians, eastward expedition of the Japanese country." All the officials present were shocked. Xiaoming officially proposed the next strategy for the first time. Yu Yun gritted his teeth and said, "His Royal Highness, we are all waiting for your words. Your Highness does not know anything. Now there are Western warships rampant in the sea. They are much stronger than the Great Yu Kingdom in both ships and weapons. In my opinion, only our Kingzhou warships can compete with it. The people of the Cao family have told this king that the Western powers are expanding their sphere of influence to the Great Yu Kingdom, so now we must first deal with the barbarians in Yaozhou, so that we can concentrate on capturing the trade routes by sea." Pang Yukan nodded. "The barbarians are in serious trouble, threatening the hinterland of the Great Yu Kingdom at all times, and it must be eliminated," Yu Yun said. "During this time, a large number of Galen ships can be built to prepare for future naval battles. I must throw the Dutch and the British into the sea to feed the fish. Xiao Ming smiled and patted Yu Yun's shoulder. What he needed was such fighting spirit. Facing the crowd, he said, "This time, Yu Yun is talking about these two things. The king has ordered the equipment department and the military workshop to cooperate with each other to increase the production of flintlock guns. There will be a meeting this fall. The expedition of the barbarians, old general, in addition to commanding the King's Hao army, you now immediately recruit elites from the 6th State Army to cooperate with the King's Hao army joint training, and at the same time set up a car battalion." "Yes, Your Highness." Niu Ben shouted. Pang Yukin, in addition to the government affairs of the states, the government has to cooperate with a shipyard to produce Galen ships, so it has to be slow in terms of money and food. "Yes, Your Highness." Pang Yukin replied. "Chen Qi, Lu Tong, the line bullets can be handed over to you. In addition, during the expedition, this king wants to see field guns." "Yes, Your Highness." After issuing a series of orders, Xiao Ming turned his attention to the north. This northern expedition to the barbarians was a plan, but at the same time it was a last resort. The people of Jizhao became more and more chaotic. At this time, taking the initiative to attack was just to attack and defend. After all, if the barbarians took the opportunity to go south, Jizhao might be vulnerable at this time, and he believed that the barbarians would definitely not let go of this opportunity of chaos in the Great Yu Kingdom. At that time, Jizhao fell, and he would be attacked by the enemy, which he did not want to see, so he made up his mind to expedition the barbarians in the north, set up a car camp to form the first obstacle to the barbarians during the field battle, and at the same time asked Chen Qi to develop light field guns. After jointly formulating plans for the future of King Zhao, Xiao Ming announced the rewards for Yu Yun and other admirals, and at the same time let Yu Yun take his seat. Knowing that Yu Yun was back today, he deliberately held a celebration banquet at the palace. In order to wash away the dust for Yu Yun and others after the banquet, he summoned Yu Yun alone. "His Royal Highness, it is a pity that Wilson was killed by the Dutch during the naval battle. Otherwise, His Royal Highness would have heard him talk about the current situation in the West. It doesn't matter, you can come back. This king is already satisfied." Yu Yun was moved when he heard the words. Xiao Ming cared so much about the soldiers, which made him feel warm. He thought that even dying in battle would be worth it. Then he remembered something and gave Xiao Ming the translator's booklet. Xiao Ming opened the booklet for the translator to record the questions, and his eyes swept after the questions he listed. After reading these narrations, he basically understood the current situation of the world. The invasion of Europe by the northern steppe tribes hundreds of years ago also broke the Europeans' cognition of the world. After that, the progress of civilization in Europe seemed to have undergone earth-shaking changes. With rapid scientific development and various scientific discoveries emerging one after another, these scientific changes further promoted the advent of the era of great navigation in Europe. First, the Americas were occupied by Europeans, followed by Southeast Asia and East Asia. According to Wilson, after the Dutch occupied the East Asian trade route, merchants from other countries had been barred from this trade route. It is precisely because of this that few foreign embassies go to the Great Yu country. However, in recent years, the Dutch are declining, replaced by Great Britain, France and Prussia, and because of the problem of Protestantism, European countries are also full of contradictions and frequent wars. Wilson also explained the current level of science and technology in the West. In Xiao Ming's view, it is already the level of the mid-18th century. A steam engine has already been proposed in Great Britain and is trying to develop it. As for the butterfly effect, Xiao Ming couldn't calculate how little deviation would affect the overall situation, but for him, the world is now a completely different history. Except before the three kingdoms, both Europe and Asia have moved on a completely unfamiliar track. It was only then that Xiao Ming suddenly realized that, apart from the consistent geographical environment, this was just a strange world, a more dangerous world. Chapter 324 Potatoes. In the main hall, Xiao Ming and Yu Yun sat opposite each other. After a long time, Xiao Ming put away the booklet. He has basically understood the current situation. Generally speaking, the overall distribution of countries in Europe has not changed, only the current rulers have changed. Other than that, the technology is slightly more advanced. There is no other difference. His Royal Highness, Ryukyu is also occupied by the Dutch, which is equivalent to blocking the southern route of our fleet. The last commander felt that this Ryukyu must be taken back. In this way, the trade between Japan and other countries can be cut off. Yu Yun said. Xiao Ming nodded. Yu Yun was very discerning. As long as he took the Ryukyu and controlled the route, from then on, the of the Japanese country would be in his hands. However, this matter is still a long way off. After all, He is still not strong enough to take down Ryukyu. The 3 Galen ships have already caused him a heavy loss, but this adventure was worth it. Yu Yun brought back corn, peanuts, potatoes and pepper seeds. Leave that aside. Your current task is to recruit Navy soldiers, train them, and wait for the Deng Xiao fleet to take shape. That's when you'll be sailing the sea. Yu Yun nodded, showing a hint of excitement. After Deng Xiao docked, he made a special trip to the Deng Xiao shipyard. Now the shipyard is building 6 warships at the same time. 2 of them belonged to first-class sailing warships, and when these warships were launched, he believed that he could compete with the Dutch at sea. Looking at the excited Yu Yun, Xiao Ming asked expectantly, "Where are the potatoes, peanuts, peppers, and corn?" "Go back to your highness, these items have already been sent to the government's warehouse, and this time I will bring back the entire 3 ships. Yu Yun said. Xiao Ming happily closed his mouth and said, Let's go to the warehouse and have a look." While it's still early, these things can still be planted. The 2 went to the warehouse together. At this time, Xiao Ming saw potatoes piled up into hills. Peanuts were on one side of the potatoes, corn next to the peanuts, and pepper seeds next to the corn. Great, great. Xiao Ming rubbed his palms excitedly. Whether it is potatoes, corn, or peanuts, they are all high-yielding crops, and these crops are also very suitable for planting in slightly arid areas. Once these crops are popularized in King Zhao, he will not worry about the people in the fiefs being hungry in the future. His Royal Highness, these potatoes, peanuts and corn taste really good. If it weren't for these things, the soldiers might starve to death on the island. Yu Yun had already tasted these things, of course. Not only is it delicious, but it is much more productive than wheat and rice. Xiao Ming turned to Zhao Long and said, "Please inform the transport team, and now transport these seeds to the slave plantation, and plant these things down." Zhao Long heard the words and was ordered to leave. This time Yu Yun was exhausted from the long distance. Xiao Ming also had to take care of Yu Yun's body, and after talking to Yu Yun a few words, let him go back to rest, and he returned to the palace to write the method of planting potatoes, peanuts, peppers, and corn. The next day, he took the planting manual to the slave plantation on both sides of the Tuojiang River in Qingzhou. Originally, these lands did not belong to Xiao Ming, but belonged to the former 4 great families. But after the destruction of the Wangfu, Qin family and other families, some fertile lands came into his hands and became official residences. In order not to waste the land, he dispatched 6,000 slaves to take care of the thousands of hectares of land. "Your Highness, can this potato really yield 4,000 caddies per mu?" Pang Yukin was also very concerned about the crops introduced this time. Before he set off in the morning, Pang Yukin was waiting outside the door saying this. Along the way, the 2 gradually arrived at the slave plantation. At this time, a village appeared in front of the 2 of them. The village was very small, with about 50 brick houses from south to north. These brick houses are neatly arranged. Obviously, not long after the completion, many slaves are running back and forth between the fields and the village, and there is another such small village not far away. The slaves of these villages are responsible for the land in their own area. "Your Highness, Pang Changshi." The 2 entered the village, and an honest farmer ran over. He was the captain of the village and was responsible for the cultivation of the land and the management of the village personnel. "Kui Si, have you taken good care of the things you sent yesterday?" Xiao Ming asked. "Your Highness, it's all right," Kui Wu said cautiously. Xiao Ming nodded. Slave plantations are only just emerging in his hands. They will become more and more popular in Qingzhou in the future, because slave plantations are an important source of food in this era. "Well, since that's the case, you gather all the people in the village now, and this king will teach you how to grow these crops." Kui Si nodded, ran to the center of the village and rang a bronze bell in the middle of the village. After a while, all the slaves in the field gathered. Pang Yukin came here purely to gain insight, because he didn't say anything, just studied hard. This time Xiao Ming came over in person and wrote the planting manual himself. Naturally, it was not a whim, because crop planting is also a science, especially for crops like potatoes, which are subject to modern degradation. He had to arrange the work of cultivating high-quality seedlings in advance. After all, after several generations of reproduction, the next generation of potatoes will have a large reduction in yield or even no harvest due to soil viruses. This time he is going to tell Kui Si about breeding. Whether it is peanuts, corn, peppers or potatoes, it is necessary to retain high-quality seeds through artificial selection. So this time he planted potatoes, peppers, peanuts, and corn, not for eating, but for raising seedlings. After all the slaves were in place, Xiao Ming began to focus on the method of raising potato seedlings. This method is called cutting and breeding. This time, Xiao Ming saw the potatoes brought by Yu Yun. They were all large, indicating that they were high-quality potato seeds, so there was no problem with cutting them into pieces and multiplying them. He told Kui Si to cut the potatoes into pieces, keeping the weight of each piece at about 20 grams, and having 1 or 2 sprouts on each piece of potato. And when cutting, the knife should be burned with alcohol for strict disinfection afterwards. When the potato pieces germinate, they will be propagated by breaking off the buds. That is, the potato shoots that have grown will be broken off and planted. At this time, the broken potato shoots will grow again after a period of time, which is similar to the principle of cutting weeks. And when cultivating these seedlings, select high-quality seedlings. Again, it's still spring, and autumn is a good time to plant potatoes in the wild, so now is a good time for seedlings. These operations are not difficult, and Kui Wei Al have no problem understanding them. And he talked about raising seedlings such as peanuts, corn, peppers, etc., and explained the establishment of seedling bases in each plantation, so that these imported crops could be continuously planted in his fief. Chapter 325, Pig Team at King Yuang. The chirping of birds kept coming from the woods outside the plantation. In an hour, Xiao Ming explained the matter of raising seedlings to Kui Si and others. Kui Si, I understand what your highness said. This breeding matter can be left to you. If something goes wrong, you can only ask. Pang Yukin reminded Kui Si. In his view, this breeding matter is very important, which is related to the belly of the people in the future. Chang, Shi, Kui Si remembered. Kui Si stammered, and he stuttered when he was nervous. Xiao Ming said to Pang Yukin, you can't just scare him. If you fail, you will be punished. If you succeed, you will be rewarded. Well, Kui Si, if this seedling base is completed, this king will not only give you back your freedom, but also give it back to you. You marry a daughter-in-law. Kui Si immediately became happy. He had never touched a woman since his age, and he stammered, thank your highness, Kui Si has kowtowed to you. Xiao Ming stopped Kui Si, who was about to kneel. This big gift is unnecessary. In the future, you should use it with your daughter-in-law. Kui Si smirked immediately, and Pang Yukin shook his head with a wry smile. After ordering this seedling cultivation, Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin returned to King Zhao. Potatoes mean food, food means population, and population means national strength. Pang Yukin has been very interested in agriculture until he can see through this. His Royal Highness, this disaster in Jizhao would otherwise lead to many refugees. The official wanted to send someone to secretly guide them into King Zhao, because he was afraid that there would be insufficient food. According to His Royal Highness, potatoes can be planted in autumn, and it only takes 2 months to mature. No, if you can feed the victims at that time. Pang Yukin said there is no need for secret guidance. We can guide the refugees to enter King Zhao openly. This king is taking in the victims and resolving the danger in Jizhao, so why should we be sneaky? Pang Yukin nodded. His Royal Highness is a good move, and since this is the case, the lower official will send someone to Jizhao to guide the victims into King Zhao, and at the same time, the court will ask for credit for His Royal Highness. It's almost the same. Xiao Ming felt that he was getting more and more cunning. There is no way. The environment creates people, and living in such an era requires a lot more attention to farming. The two of them talked all the way to the government office. Just after they arrived at the entrance of the government office, a person came out. It was Wang Zhuan. His Royal Highness, Pang Changshi, Xiaoguan is looking for you. Xiaoguan has received news from the grassland. Beishan has already learned about the civil unrest in Jizhao, and is organizing an army on the grassland at this time, and seems to be ready to wait for an opportunity to take advantage of the chaos in Jizhao. On the occasion of attacking Jizhao so fast, Pang Yukin was taken aback. He and Xiao Ming both expected that the barbarians would not give up this opportunity easily, but they didn't expect Beishan to react so quickly. This Beishan is indeed a difficult character. Beishan is good at fighting, so naturally he won't miss such a good opportunity. Now it's troublesome. We still have natural dangers to rely on. Beishan's attack on King Zhao. Now that we attack Jizhao, coupled with the benefits of artillery, I am afraid that Jizhao will be difficult to defend. Xiao Ming locked a tightly brow. After hesitating for a while, he said to Wang Zhuan, you continue to keep an eye on the movements of the barbarians. The civil unrest in Jizhao is not too big at present. If it continues to expand and makes King Yuang overwhelmed, then I am afraid that it will be when the barbarians are heading south. Pang Yukin, it's not right. Late, you immediately send someone to Jizhao to guide the refugees and prevent these refugees from joining the rioters, and this matter will be brought to the court. Pang Yukin nodded, entered the palace and started writing the memorial. Wang Zhuan said, "His Royal Highness, the secret guard has entered Jizhao and is gathering information at this time. This time the civil chaos in Jizhao is different from the past. This time, it is not the ordinary people who lead the chaos, but a scholar. Now the people of Jizhao call it King Long. Wang, this King Long king was originally an unwilling scholar named Qi Zhengyun. During the drought in Jizhao, his whole family starved to death. In a moment of anger, he first took the villagers to attack the government and opened the granary, and then the servants gathered. His subordinates quickly gathered hundreds of thousands of people, which is quite unstoppable. He is a courageous person." Xiao Ming said he doesn't sympathize with King Yuan. He brought it all on his own, and in fact he doesn't like this fourth emperor either. In his memory, the fourth emperor's uncle always had the image of a reckless man, but it was said that the fourth emperor's uncle was very good at fighting. He was Xiao Wangxun's thug who quelled the rebellion in Jizhao. It is precisely because of this that Xiao Wangxun gave Jizhao to King Yuan later. First, although Jizhao was pacified at that time, it was still a little unstable, and secondly, it was also to defend against barbarians. Wang Zhuan was a little stunned. If he was in front of other vassal kings, this Qi Zhengyun would have been called a thief long ago, and Xiao Ming's attitude was completely opposite to theirs. "Continue to stare at him and report to me at any time," Xiao Ming said. Wang Zhuan nodded and quickly disappeared on the street outside the mansion. Xiao Ming hesitated for a moment. He was thinking that it was time to deal with this uncle of the fourth emperor. After all, the pig teammates are also teammates. If the disaster relief is effective at this time, and forgive the guilt of the King Long King, it may be possible to save the overall situation. Therefore, he returned to the palace, sent a letter to King Yang to persuade him, and tested King Yang's thoughts. At this time, after sending the letter to Jizhao, Xiao Ming began to write the Soldier Training Manual, which is a training manual for the entire army, from the Cold Weapon Army to the Flintlock Army. In the Soldier Training Manual, Xiao Ming clarified the methods of soldier training, including physical training, loyalty training, combat training, bayonet training, etc. Modern army soldiers must master the skills. Although he had mentioned these trainings in the academy, there were still some basic generals who had no chance to contact them, so he compiled a manual and distributed it, one for each general. Allow the generals to take a scientific approach to training the musketeers. When he was busy, Luluo came in, hesitated for a while, and handed a cover to Xiao Ming. "His Royal Highness, is the cowhide sleeve cut out by the textile workshop okay?" Xiao Ming stopped writing. There was a cylindrical cowhide cover on the table, and holes were reserved in some parts of the cowhide cover. This is the waterproof leather cover for the flintlock gun that is sewed by Luluo, which is used to cover the movement position, so that when the flintlock gun encounters rainy days, the flintlock gun can maintain its combat effectiveness in rainy days. However, this kind of cowhide cover can only control the light rain and the rain, and there is no way to deal with the heavy rain and heavy rain well. Yes, it's very delicate. Let the textile workshop produce and deliver it to the King's Zhao army according to this style. Xiao Ming said and continued to write the manual. Luluo didn't leave. She continued with a smile. "His Royal Highness, there is an interesting incident today. A student who claimed to be Bowen College ran to the textile workshop and said that we asked the textile workshop to sew a big cloth bag for him, and he was going to fly to the sky. The guards of the textile mill drove him away, and after that, he shouted that he was looking for His Highness' big cloth bag. Fly to the sky? What is this person's name?" Lin Wentao. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.